All
There we
right.
go.
Tell your friends to listen to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. Is that what I say? And I immediately forgot. Oh, tell your friends
Um,
you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect
yeah,
podcast.
you're listening. Okay, start over.
Nah, leave it in.
We're
um,
professionals, damn it.
yeah. We're doing it live, damn. Um, and we have another very special episode. We have the 2015 movie Mad Max Fury Road. Nathan, do you have a history with Mad Max Fury Road?
Yes, me and my son went and saw it in the theaters.
Okay,
So I think he would have been.
so it was nine,
let's-
10 years ago. So,
So yeah, he would have been like 12. But yeah, I think that's when we saw. Oh, I was always doing stuff like that. It's like, hey,
this
you
is
want to watch obscure foreign films? He's 11 years. Yeah, sure. Okay, we're going to this weird theater in like Royal Oak.
yeah. Oh, yeah, didn't you see what Anthropod together or something? Or what was that?
Anthropoid,
Yeah.
the Lighthouse Keepers. There was like 20s, some German silent film double feature.
Okay.
It was about because he was into he's really into World War II, and was always why he has a history degree now. But I was like, yeah, this was like silent movies in like the years before Hitler took power. And it was like, oh, what's it about? It's like, oh, just why they hate Jews and stuff. He's like, oh, but they're going to tell a story. So it was like weird silent movies. We did stuff like that a lot. So yeah, this was more like, hey, this is going to be engaging and exciting. You're not going to have a lot of questions to ask. It's not going to be just me and you in the theater, and the guy who's like the guy attending the theater will come and talk to us about the movie because he too is also has nothing else to do but run the movie. So it's like, yeah, we learned a lot today. That theater closed, unfortunately.
Oh.
So
I mean, this doesn't seem like it is a violent movie, but like it kind of obscures some of the worst of the violence, and so
yeah, it's not that bad. It's
yeah.
PG. Is it PG-13 or R?
No, it's R. I'm pretty
Is
sure
it?
it's R.
Yeah, it's got to be R. Yeah, there's some stuff that happens that make it
I
R
mean,
for
you see a guy's intestines and rib cage at some point, so I'm pretty sure it's R. So.
yeah, that might. Yeah, you might get the intestinal disqualification for PG-13.
I mean, but it was a really expensive movie to make. But yeah, it's R. So
Yeah,
um, and also just again, 2 hours almost exactly.
yeah,
Even less than that if you just leave at the credits. So although it did seem weird, like because I love when movies are that length. Um, and I was like actually like kind of because I was thinking about like yeah what's the best like short movie we watched so far? It was probably Dread, and I was actually seeing a lot of similarities between this and Dread in a way. So
yeah,
because it opens with the character doing the monologue, and it's like oh yeah that gets you through a lot of stuff. So I know this is like the fourth film in the franchise, but it's like as we know with every Mad Max movie like it's a remake of itself, and so they never really have a carry through canon. It's just kind of like, well, here's the same characters and people, and they're kind of remixed into different movies that happen to be called Mad Max. So.
yeah. Yeah, there's not a hard timeline with Mad Max because there's such a just a wide spectrum of time. Because basically an '80s thing. It was an late '70s, early '80s thing that's kind of sprawled into the mid '80s and then just stopped, and then showed up in 2015.
um, but yeah. Um, Thunderdome. That was PG-13.
Oh, okay.
So that was also made under different circumstances.
Different times, different places.
Well, like then one of the friends that was like a part of the whole group died, and they kind of like finished it, and
Yeah.
it was almost like meant to be like a TV show or something, and they kind of made it into a movie or something like that.
Yeah, I believe there was some weird development stuff, but yeah, I think the guy named like someone named Kennedy died.
Yeah.
Who was basically like the scouting the scenes. I think was he the director of photography or
Oh, I
I
don't
think
think so. I
he
think it's
died
just a
in a
producer,
helicopter
but
crash. Yeah, it was something weird.
okay.
I remember we talked about it when we did the Thunderdome episode.
Um, Yeah.
basically in honor of when Tina Turner died. We're like, well, let's do the coolest like Tina Turner thing we remember.
Well, no, we did. That was our one listener.
Yeah, listener request.
Because the Tina Turner song like popped up, and you said like, "Did you know that's from Mad Max Thunderdome?" I think to your wife, and then I had no idea that that's where it came from.
Yep.
Because even though like in the lyrics it says like Beyond Thunderdome, like what? Yeah, I don't need another hero. That's all I remember about that song. That's the only lyric I remember, and like how it goes.
Yeah, because then also it had the children's chorus in it too, which
Yeah,
makes when you know watch the movie, it's like, oh yeah, this does tie in perfectly. There was another Tina Turner song at the beginning called "Among the Living."
yeah.
That one was also in the movie, but yeah, that was an interesting Mad Max film.
So yeah, this Mad Max Fury Road came out May 25th, 2015. I may have saw this opening day. I'm not sure. I don't think it was a great movie. So.
I know it was packed theater, so it might
Yeah,
have been opening weekend for me. I don't know. Around
yeah.
here, the theaters can be packed for up to a month on the weekends. So
I mean, there's a reason why, like when Furiosa came out, it's like I'm gonna wait on that because it's gonna be too packed, and then it ended up being the complete opposite. Apparently, almost nobody went and saw that movie, so
yeah, it's
I
kind of weird.
quickly went out. I mean, it's definitely a less fun movie. It's still a good movie, but then there was like on the Action Boys podcast, Ben was like railing against it. It's like, huh, that just came and went, huh? Just a completely forgettable movie, and I'm like, what? So like, whatever. So. He gets on these tirades sometimes where he likes to like cherish like 70s and 80s movies,
Oh yeah,
and then like because he's like he produces content, like he was a writer, like that he writes on a bunch of things, but he was a writer on the Star Trek Lower Decks show.
okay.
And he wrote some of the best episodes, and then he hasn't been there the last two seasons, but just because he's a contentious guy. So, anyways, he's just like he's full on to this into this theory about how basically everything sucks now and everything in older times is better, which we're actually coming to an opposite conclusion. Well, actually, I don't know. When we get to the 2020s, maybe that's when everything changes. Because right now, and I did choose movies that are like like they're obviously good movies,
Yeah,
but they're movies we talk about a lot, and so we're just kind of sitting here. It's like, oh no, like this run of movies we're on right now are like some of the greatest movies we've ever seen, but like we're just older now, and maybe we don't cherish them as much. So now we get to do that. So
well, a lot of times you get into this logic trap when people talk about movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Because for like me and you, we were like little kids and much younger then. And it's like we remember those as being great movies because they were exciting to go see and couldn't wait to see them. We forget about all the other movies that also exist from that time, which you wouldn't watch on a bet
yeah.
because some of them are just so weird. I mean, I think
Well,
I
I think that's really a thing that is that like back then there was just some more variety.
yeah,
Where it's like the problem now is that it's like the stock market is now creating the safest movie you can make, and everybody's making the same movie.
and also a lot of the big ideas are going to streaming series
Yeah,
versus being let's chop this up and make it into a cool movie.
yeah.
It's like no, let's make this an 8-part like series. Um,
But
so
yeah,
yeah,
it's
there's also
weird.
that.
There just seems to be a lost art of short movies that aren't intended
Yes.
to be sequels. And I think like the idea of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was amazing and was something I was waiting decades for. Ever
Yeah,
since I saw the Alien Skull in Predator 2.
yeah,
It's like that'd be cool if multiple movies had links together, and then every movie you just get closer and closer to where they all combine together. Now with Aliens versus Predator, that was kind of a wet fart of a movie, but
yeah.
the idea was there. That's cool. I never read the comics. I heard the comics are way better for the Alien versus Predator stuff, but they made some good video games out of it too. But but the idea of just like it's basically like a $200 million TV show that takes place over the course of decades, like is really cool. But then everybody tried to do that, and then like they just started extracting all these pieces from one movie. It's like, we'll do this in the next movie. And they just stopped making complete movies.
Yeah. And then they also kind of reached peak crazy with like, we're going to tell the most complex, dense, high quality story with Westworld. Like they did season 1, the $100 million TV series. And it's like, oh, this is awesome. It's going to get better as it goes on. Nope. And not only did it not get better, it lost 75% horsepower. And then almost 100% horsepower by the time it ended. And that's crazy because it's all the same people. They didn't like, oh, well, all the writers quit and they fired the showrunner. No. And then ever since then, it's kind of like, and then you had, of course, True Detective even before that. It's like, oh, can't wait to see the next one. Nope. Sorry. So what you're getting now is like one amazing season of a super high quality TV show. And then it's like, just wait till the next season. It's going to be even better. And it's, no, we've had a lot of those too. With like, we're in that mode now where it's like, just do one season and be done with it.
Well, now it's starting to like, well, in network television, it's there. It seems like on streaming, they're more willing to give a new show a chance.
Yeah.
When you look at like network television, it's like, man, we're on the fucking 9th NCIS show.
Yeah.
They're doing a prequel NCIS show called NCIS Origins.
Yellowstone, NCIS. It's like they're back in the old West, like developing crime. It's like, you ever heard of these fingerprints? That's from the devil. No, it's a real thing. They're never gonna. I mean, hey, as long as it's a money machine.
Yeah.
As long as the money keeps coming in, but unfortunately, there's a certain demographic that 20 years from now is just not going to exist anymore. I don't know who you're making these shows for then. But.
Well, you're making these shows for the people who are left who actually watch network television, who are the people that aren't going to be there in the next 15 years. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, well, I don't know who the core audience after that. But that's. Entertainment's mutated so much. Technology has made so many massive changes. It's really hard to tell.
But that's also like the terrible thing is like, because I heard some else people talking about. I haven't seen it yet, but the Megalopolis movie and one of the things with Coppola is like he's like all about like getting filmmaking into like anybody's hands, and so he's like. Yeah, all this technology and stuff out there and everything's cheaper, like everyone will be able to make a movie. But nobody can because nobody has the time or money to make a movie, even though the process to make it is you can make an awesome movie on an iPhone, but who's got time, people, permits, anything to make a movie? So.
Now, the framework of making a movie is like, the equipment's cheaper and everything's cheaper, but you still need to pay actors, pay a film crew. And the one thing that has not changed I'm just going to say from the time when you put talking movies where you could actually hear the actors is writing.
Yeah.
And that has to be always of high quality, and it always has to be dense, and it always has to be engaging. And that's like real hit or miss anymore.
Yeah.
I think they used to vet that a little harder, whereas now they're like, let's vibe with that idea for a while. And then we're 3 episodes into our mega $1 million TV franchise. It's like, let's change direction. This isn't hanging together. And I've seen that a lot too. And it's like, oh, well, you need to tighten up because you can't do anything without writing.
Yeah.
You're done. You can make the most beautiful looking piece of crap. I mean, this is how Event Horizon happens. All the movies we talk about where I even watched one recently, Long Legs, awesome looking movie.
Yeah.
Boy, does the story just, I mean, it's just like someone popped a balloon.
That's what I heard about it.
It's like, God damn, this looks great. And it's like, this is going to be cool. Why have I not heard more about this movie? This is amazing.
Oh, I heard a lot about that movie, but I hear about it as like, it's cool until it's a complete disappointment.
Yeah, boy, once that third act hits, it's like, wow, you just smacked into a wall. That's all writing too.
Yeah.
That's all that is. And I know that sounds generic, but that's the common thread in a lot of movies that we body slam on here. It's like, the story just disintegrates.
Yeah.
It's like, looks cool, but that's not going to carry it through.
And like I think that's a lot to do with like how the system works and how things get vetted, where it's just like it's it's whatever's contemporary. It's like, what's the latest thing? That's cool. Let's run it into production. It's not like we're spending time on this. We're gonna like iron this out. Like, no, it's cool now. Let's start it up and then see where it goes. And then when if it's not going where they think it's going, let's start making changes on the fly. And that's
learn as you go.
and that's every production.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
and like presumably like Megalopolis got all the love and money it needed, and apparently it's a really interesting failure. So,
Yeah, well, everyone hated Apocalypse Now for 5 years, and then they thought it was one of the greatest films ever made. So it's like, okay, maybe he'll pull that one out of the. I don't know, maybe.
I've listened to two podcasts talk about it, and like it sounds like there's a lot of interesting ideas, but it's what do they say? It's a lot of interesting ideas, but a poor script with poor dialogue.
So it's beautiful garbage.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this looks great. The actors are cool. Everyone's amazing.
Well, it's like, we like Titus, and that's not necessarily a good movie, but there's great stuff to it.
Yeah. Well, there's Anthony Hopkins in
Yeah,
a completely bizarre environment, giving the strangest speeches in the most impassioned way.
So yes, I think that's exactly what Megalopolis is.
Yeah. So I'll probably like it. But I'm not running out to theaters to see it. So.
No, I think it's gone from theaters. It might be streaming already. So
okay, well, I'll probably do that. It seems like a movie you got to be drunk to watch. Like, oh, I get this. It's so profound. I didn't realize.
So yeah, director of Mad Max Fury Road, George Miller, who we last saw doing Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Great director. Kind of a master of almost everything he does. He does a lot of different things. You would not think he was the director of Happy Feet 1 and 2, but he is.
No.
Also, Babe. Did he do the second one, or was he involved with both of them? I don't think he directed the first one. I think he directed Babe, Pig in the City, but I can't remember.
I don't know. Let me look it up. Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Babe, Pig in the City, director, writer, and producer. Babe, writer and producer, not director.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. He's also one of the guys along with like Cronenberg and Crichton, these guys who were like started in the medical field and then ended up being directors.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was an actual like doctor, right?
I think
so. Or was he an intern?
I think. Well, didn't you say he like did, or maybe he was exposed to like emergency care, and that's where he got like.
Well, he saw people in car wrecks, what it did to their bodies, and he was like, "Whoa! Imagine if people did this deliberately, like it wasn't an accident, like they were fighting each other. That would be insane."
Okay. So yeah, he had. This movie was like amazing, and it made a lot of money. And then Furiosa was made on a lesser budget, and then didn't make its money back. And then in pre-production is Mad Max Wasteland, which I am highly doubtful will ever get made.
Yeah,
but oh well.
No, there was a lot of contention between George Miller and the production company of Fury Road, because he was promised certain things if he met certain budgetary requirements.
Oh yeah, that's why Furiosa took so long to get made. So, yeah.
And he technically did, but their sets in Namibia got destroyed twice, but they have insurance for that. And he's like, that's not me or you. You had insurance on it. I still met my budget outside of the destruction of the sets, which were insured. And they're like, no. Sony was like, they were trying to do some clever Hollywood math on him. And he's like, well, we can just go to court and, waste a fortune.
Oh, did Sony produce this? I thought Warner Brothers ended up releasing this.
I thought it was, Village Roadshow. Warner Brothers distributed it.
Okay.
I thought it was Sony he was in a battle with. I could be wrong.
I mean, that could be what Village Roadshow's like associated with. I'm not sure. So,
I think in the end it went in his favor, and it was one of those things now where you got to pay all his legal bills too. That doesn't make those lawsuits is
I mean, he
common.
did make a movie in between Furiosa and this called like 1,000 Years of Longing, which I never saw. I didn't hear bad things about it. I just had no interest in it. It's like Idris Elba's a sexy genie. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like something yeah, because there's like the Witches of Eastwick, like he did that too. I watched it once and I was like, that's cool. It's a chick movie, but it was
Yeah.
like it's cool, but there's nothing. Oh, Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton. Oh, that might be interesting.
um, yeah, he's been doing stuff with video games lately too. Like he's gonna be in the new um Death Stranding video game.
Good. That's good. That's where he belongs. He's going to be in there with who's the other guy? Benicio? No,
Guillermo del Toro.
yeah, Guillermo del Toro.
I don't think he's in the next one. He got a different director. He got like some Turkish, like Iranian director or something like that, and who like never saw or heard of any of his movies. But when you look at it, it's like, oh, this guy's like an interesting, like, kind of, punk rock filmmaker.
I
Yeah,
love the Death Stranding. I'm a big YouTube fan of Death Stranding.
yeah,
It's like I want to watch the game be played, and I want to watch the cutscenes, and I even want to watch the guys play the game. I'll watch it for 10 hours.
yeah,
But I'm just like, I'm not playing this. I
yeah,
just
yeah.
don't. I got too many things going on. I can't do this.
You can
But I
literally see your
appreciate it.
time wasting away in front of your eyes.
Yeah, well, I have very time consuming old guy hobbies now, and it's like, yeah, if I got into video games, it's like, might as well just scrap all the model stuff I'm doing because I can't do both because I don't have enough life to do both and work. I just quit working, I guess, and become a full time like watch this old man play video games, and I make $2 million a week for some reason that no one can explain. That'd be nice.
But yeah, there was two directors in Death Stranding. You had Guillermo del Toro, which I can't remember what his character's name was, and then you had Nicholas Winding Refn, and his character's name was Die Hard Man.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I can't remember I know the Del Toro character though. I remember Die Hard Man. That was great. It's like that's amazing.
That's one of the things where it's like, is this lost in translation? Is this genius? Is it stupid? And the answer is yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say at first lost in translation, but I've heard Hideo Kojima speak and talk to people. It's like, no, I think he has pretty much full mastery of the English language. I think this is just his weirdness coming out.
Yeah, I can't remember the other pursuits George Miller has, but he seems to like be good at something and then move on to the next project. But Mad Max always comes calling, and he seems to be like, no, I'm going to deliver it.
Yeah.
Because they haven't branched out yet, but, and let somebody else make it. So that's always, is that one of those like, this franchise dies with me, or you can make new ones once I die? Is that
I'm not sure.
Because I'm trying to
So
think
some of
of
the stuff I think he has like maybe George Miller had. I'm just totally spitballing here. He might have some like Ridley Scott paranoia. It's like, oh, I'm going to see these through no matter what. I'm not going to let anyone like take this vision from me.
yeah.
And also George Miller is like, all the Mad Max stuff is uniquely Australian.
Yeah.
And I think if you didn't have an Australian doing it, people would be like, that's an imitation. It's a copy. It's derivative. But for some reason, when George Miller does it, it's like, yeah, this is cool.
Just get Peter Jackson to do it. It's like, Americans don't know the difference between New Zealander and Australia.
Just have Peter. Yeah, just sure have Peter Jackson do it. But we'll reshoot the original Road Warrior, but we'll make it into 5 movies somehow because we'll tell every side quest and every story, and he'll put Tom Bombadil in the Road Warrior to slow him up. So yeah, why not?
Cinematographer is John Seeley, who is Australian, director of photography, but he's done plenty of big American movies. Did The Witness, The Hitcher, which that's a great movie. Mosquito Coast, which I hear good things, never seen it.
Actually, a great movie.
Okay. Dead Poet Society, Lindsay's Oil, The Firm, The English Patient, The Talented Mr. Ripley, The Perfect
Ooh,
Storm.
Cold Mountain. He did that one. That's not a great movie, but it's got some great scenes in it.
Is that the one where like they get all backed up into the mountain? They're basically just like shooting an entire army dead.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, it's and the characters are. I don't know. It's a bad movie with some awesome scenes and good acting in it.
Okay.
So,
I did the
well, he did
first.
The Perfect Storm too. That's got to be a highlight of his.
Well, next year he did the Harry Potter. He did the first Harry Potter movie, so it's probably gonna make him bit
Oh, and
take
he
about
did it with the smarty pants British name. They credit him with the Philosopher's Stone.
that.
We don't get the Philosopher's Stone here because we're dumb shits. They had to rename it for
Oh,
us.
they did. Okay, I didn't realize. Okay. Um.
Yeah, it's in America. It's called Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone because even adults here can't read above a third grade level. I don't.
They wouldn't know it was magic if they said philosopher in the title, so they made
Yeah, well,
sorcerer.
it's like that irritates me when they do that, and then I see other Americans on TV, and I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, this is you got it. I
Have
mean,
you
we
looked
just
at
have to look
yourself?
at. Yeah. I mean, I would get it, but I probably couldn't express to you why I would get it. But it really doesn't matter. It's like I'm not on TV all the time because I'm not making a spectacle of myself. So all you have to do is look at the 2024 election to realize it's like, yeah, it is a nation of dumbasses.
But he did shoot. He shot Mad Max Fury Road and then did that 3,000 Years of Longing. He did not shoot Furiosa, so I'm not sure how old he is, but he's probably within retirement age by now.
Well, based on his career, yes, he's probably close. He's 82, so yeah, he's in retirement zone.
But he's a good cinematographer and he's Australian, so that's all you need to be in a Mad Max movie is be good at your job. And actually, well, what is Tom Hardy? He's English, right?
Tom Hardy is from London, yes.
Okay, and then Charlize Theron's African. So
Yes, Charlie. Yeah, she's the one I mixed up with the other lady. Yeah, Charlize Theron was born in some place can't pronounce. Benani, Transvaal, South Africa.
yeah,
Okay.
which Namibia, that's in Africa, isn't it? Or am I
Yeah.
mistaken? Okay. But as far as I know, the production stuff on that, nobody liked working on this movie. It was a lot of terrible circumstances, but it's a great movie.
It's like being sandblasted every day at the job.
And I heard, yeah, there was, I'm not sure how much is made up for like talk show stuff or whatever, or just like gossip stuff. It seemed like Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron did not get along, but it seems to be like that's kind of like Tom Hardy's acting style because he seems like a normal and interesting person outside of acting, and then when he's acting, he just does the method stuff where it's like he's got to.
Oh, doesn't he just like to antagonize people to keep everyone raw? Is that his thing?
I don't know about that, but I don't know. He.
I mean, just in terms of acting.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like, do you remember like his? Well, the first thing we'd probably remember, he was like Picard's like clone, like Romulan clone in Star Trek Nemesis.
Yes, I do remember that.
And he was like, just this skinny British guy, and he seemed fine. But then he does Bronson, and like completely changes everything about himself, like his acting, his body, everything. And then he became a superstar after that. He was like, then he became, Bane, and then like he's good in everything, but he's never nominated for anything.
Yeah,
he's like he's a great actor, but he's not been recognized for it. So, but he's also he does good and bad stuff. So, but he's always good in everything he does. So he's a working actor. So in that way, so
I remember he was like kind of the standout guy, and it's a bad movie, but great performances from Tom Hardy and Gary Oldman. It's a novel based on Russian fiction called Child 44.
huh?
It's about a serial killer of children in Russia in the immediate post World War II,
Huh?
and all the rampant paranoia and stuff that was going on in the Soviet Union at that time. It's a good dark movie. It's not a great movie, but Tom Hardy and Gary Oldman, and Noomi Rapace is in it too. That's his
Oh,
wife.
okay.
They do give a standout performance.
Huh.
And what otherwise is not like an awesome movie. As a matter of fact, it's really actually terrible. He does a good job in it.
Yeah, I feel like Adam Driver and Tom Hardy are kind of like the flip side of the same coin. Like they're both great actors who will do anything.
Yeah,
Although did Adam Driver win an Oscar for something? Was it for like that Netflix like relationship movie or whatever? I can't remember what it was called. Like
maybe we watched that movie,
I didn't. I just know
or
about
did I watch it?
it.
Yeah, I don't know. Hold on, let me look that up.
I want to say it might just even be called like Marriage. That might be the name of the movie. But yeah, it was a Netflix movie. I forget it was directed by somebody who is of note.
Marriage Story.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was particularly sad. Yeah, Scarlett Johansson was the other one in that. Okay.
I don't know if he got. I thought maybe he got nominated for an Oscar for that, or maybe he won. I can't remember. I feel like Adam Driver is one of those people that like should have won one but hasn't. But
He's won Emmys. He's won a British Academy Award. I don't know.
But I don't know, like, but these are stuff that's crazy. Like, do you know of or have you seen Annette?
No.
Okay, I don't even know if I want to tell you to watch it. It's on Prime. It's a fucking bonkers movie. Like, it was supposed to be like basically like a music video for some band, and it just became this. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a guy is like a one of those people that like control puppets. What are they called?
Marionette? Or,
Yeah, he's like a
yeah.
marionette. There's something where like they cut between like his wife dies on a shipwreck, but like he might have killed her, and then like their child died, but then he's got this marionette doll, and he's like going gangbusters like on Broadway with it, but then he's guilted by like the death of his. Well, I don't think there was ever like a death child. Like this marionette is the child. It's like it's fucking bonkers.
Huh.
It's definitely not good, but it's infamous.
So I remember the last kind of odd movie, or wasn't odd, it was a good movie. It was The Last Duel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The one set in France in the Middle Ages with Matt Damon. And that one was pretty cool.
I meant to watch that. White Noise looked good, but you said it's terrible and like it destroyed the book that it was based on.
Yeah, the books actually was better.
Okay.
I think, and I don't know why, because again, it was one of those things. It's like, well, they had good intentions and they obviously had love for the source material, but it didn't seem to hold together. It was really hard to watch. It's like, I remember this book and I don't know why this is not cohering for me.
I think. Well, yeah. I think it was like I can't like is the movie trying to do some sort of like pandemic parable or something with it? I can't. Is there something obvious it's doing that doesn't work? I can't remember. I never saw the movie, but I can't remember what everybody hates about it.
Yeah, I don't really know. I didn't get that vibe from it. It just seemed to follow the story.
Oh, okay.
The story was there was what did they call it? An unknown toxic event that's going to kill everyone. It was released near the town they live in, and it was about these families' paranoia.
Okay, yeah.
And like it's all the housewives were anorexic, and he was like a professor of Hitler studies at the local university. No one's ever heard of him. It was like, yeah, they were all smart people dealing with their own mortality in a bad way. They were like the way they were thinking about things was like, this shouldn't be how smart people act. Yet they did.
Mad Max Fury Road is written by George Miller, Brendan McCarthy, and Nick Lotharius or Lotharius, something. They're all Australian guys. They seem to be Brendan and Nick seem to be like producers and actors. So it seemed to be like just people they know. So
Yeah.
they don't really have, I don't look at them right now, but like that, it seems to be like this is kind of like their only writing credits. Oh, I guess. Oh, here. Oh, Brendan wrote Lost in Space, the movie, which isn't good. Oh, no, he's in the art department. Never mind. Yeah, what are his writing credits? Okay, yeah, these are like his only writing credits. Okay. He worked in the art department on other movies that you know of, but this is like the only movie he wrote. So, and of course the cast is Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, and Nicholas Hoult. Tom Hardy doing a very weird Mad Max. A Mad Max that seemed like he was dubbed through the entire movie.
Yeah, it was kind of a strange, yeah.
It almost felt like he was doing like, I don't know, a foreign accent. Like not Australian, not American, like he was like a Czechoslovakian guy who spoke English.
Yeah, maybe he took Mad Max's actual name and like wrote his own thing into it. Like, no, he's an Eastern European. Like, no, his name is Rakatansky. He's an Australian. It's like, no, I think it would be interesting if he spoke with a Russian accent. It's like, that's okay. No, that's weird. I don't know, but he did weird, like Bane voice was always weird too, but it was very impactful. Like it worked in the case of Bane.
Yeah.
But it's this I did notice. It's like why I even thought that too. Are they dubbing?
Well, he growls so much this movie, and like, so yeah, and like it doesn't. But also they do some weird stuff with like shutter speed and frame speeds. So I don't know if that's like detracting or getting in the way of his intended acting style or something, but. He doesn't speak a lot, and when he does, it feels like he's being dubbed. So.
Yeah, I often thought for shits and giggles they were like dubbing. What's his name? The original Mad Max.
Oh, Mel Gibson.
They were dubbing Mel Gibson's voice over, but it's like no, they wouldn't do that. Mel Gibson's he was still excommunicated at this time, right?
Yeah, no, he's probably making movies.
Yeah,
because I can't remember when Heartbreak Ridge came out, but it got to be around that time. So he's still an excellent movie maker. He's a piece of shit, but he's still an excellent movie.
Yeah,
maker.
I mean, I wouldn't like get in financial stuff with him, but I am enjoying his.
Unless he makes another, what's the Jesus movie?
Passion of the Christ.
Yeah. If he makes that one, you got to get on board. You know that's gonna make money. Those.
Oh yeah, would you like to be a 10% investor? And yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Every church in the country is going to be like buying the tickets out.
Such easy pandering.
Oh yeah, you're going to make a $10 million movie and get more money than the Titanic. It's like how? It's like, well, everyone's going to see it and feel good.
Oh, it's not Heartbreak Ridge. What is it? That's the Clint Eastwood movie.
No, yeah, you're talking about Hacksaw Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge, that's it.
Yeah.
Which, when did that come out? Doing too many internet searches. Oh well, what are you gonna do?
This is riveting podcasting, folks. This is what you tune in for.
2016, next year.
Okay.
So.
But needless to say, that wasn't happening.
Well, he probably would have been directing the movie while that movie was coming out. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, then Mad Max Fury Road was probably being made in like 2013 for all I know. It seemed like a long production. I'm not sure. Unless it just felt long. I'm not sure.
Well, production wrapped in 2012.
Okay.
And then they did spec shooting in 2013. But they had set destruction and everything else.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of problems with it. And also the cars in this were a nightmare to keep running. Not only because the climate they were in was very challenging to precision machinery running, but when you just start mocking cars together, it's like they're just made for shows. And when you got to film, let's do a 16-hour shoot with cars designed. I know people that make cars like this. I know how unreliable they're. Cool, but boy, are they unreliable. There's a reason it takes a team of people, hundreds of engineers and all kinds of experts working in a company to reliably manufacture cars that all kind of look the same and feel the same and are interesting and exciting. It's because they work. is because once you put them together and drive them off the end of the line, well, you can put gas in them and drive all the way to California if you want to and have a 99% chance of making it with zero problems. No, when you're putting like semi trucks and tractor transmissions together to make giant vehicles run around in the sand, they're going to be broke more than they're going to be running. So,
I mean,
yeah.
oftentimes in movie productions, they'll have multiple cars just to like have, well, at least one of these will run. I mean, usually they have like a show car and then like kind of a stunt car. You know, if you have a Ferrari, they might have a real Ferrari where when somebody steps out of the car, and then every other scene is just a Ferrari chassis on top of something else. So,
Yeah. Yeah, these especially though are kind of
I don't think they
very
had doubles for these cars. These are
no.
These were like bespoke cars made for the film. So,
I think they had what they called shooting cars for when they were showing in cabin scenes of the actors. I think those were just mock-ups of the cars,
yeah, just
but
put
I
on a
think that
trailer and shot it. Yeah.
yeah, but I think they don't I think as far as the running cars, they only had what they had. Because I know like the tank vehicle, like they had a nightmare keeping that running in the desert because it was built with the company that built it, they sent it with like demonstration tracks on it, which meant they were aluminum,
Oh,
which
okay.
meant they were being just ground to dust, just being pulverized by the drive system.
Yeah.
What was that
You know.
weird sound? I don't know. Maybe something ricocheted off the house. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear anything, so it's not making it to the to the feed. But if you gotta go check things out. But
No, I don't. People come pound on the door if something really bad's happening.
it's All Hallows Post.
Yeah. It's our post one day after Halloween podcast.
First day of November.
We fall back tomorrow.
Thanksgiving. Oh, we do? Oh, I didn't
think-
know that. Huh. Yeah, we used to do the podcast in the time warp, so that was kind of fun. I guess yeah, it is like the first week.
Sunday, November 3rd is when we fall back.
Okay. Or Saturday night. Is it like
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll get into it. So we got Act 1. We get car noises and gunfire. And then we get it's just darkness, it's just a blank screen. Well, you get the like the Village Roadshow and like the production credits. And we get a Max voiceover. This is the most dialogue we're gonna get out of Tom Hardy. It says, "My name is Max. My world is fire and blood." And then we kind of intercut with radio broadcast talking about the oil wars that then transitioned into the water war, that then transitions into nuclear war. He goes, "Once I was a cop, a road warrior searching for righteous cause," which this immediately makes little sense, because was he an actual cop when the world was still functional? Or is this the timeline where it's like, this is like 40 years after the world ends?
I'm assuming this comes right after let's see, in the stuff I've read, the timeline, this happens right after Thunderdome.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I understood this to happen.
So this Max is supposed to have been a cop when the world was still, like not falling apart.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's weird, because when you watch Furiosa, what's presumed is like, what, she spent like 30 years like at the Citadel, and then somehow she's older than Max. So when was he a cop?
That doesn't really track, but I don't know.
Again, Mad Max is a series that does not care about continuity, so that doesn't matter. But I think one time we were talking about Thunderdome, that they had like kind of redone the canon where it's like he was never a cop in a time of peace. He was always just kind of like, maybe he was like a sort of police figure, but it was always the wasteland. He never lived in a world that wasn't the wasteland. Where it's here, he's saying he was a cop, but maybe that's just for people that remember the series. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Um, but he says I was a cop, a road warrior. So it's like, well, which is it? Are those the same thing, or what do we mean? Like, he's the road warrior, like from the '80s movie. Yeah, because the original Mad Max was that like '79? I can't remember.
Yes, I
Okay,
believe so.
okay. Um, yeah. So Max continues, says, as the world fell, each of us in our own way was broken. It was hard to know who was more crazy, me or everyone else. So this is like literally leaning in on I, the idea of Mad Max being that he has lost his mind, and not that he is like an avenging police officer looking for the people that killed his families. That's what Mad Max used to mean, but now it's both, like a psychologically mad and an angry man looking to avenge the death of his child and wife or whatever. So,
Yeah.
although here it's just his child, right? That's what they give him in his hallucinations. It's never his wife.
Yeah, you only see the child.
Okay. Um. Yeah, we get a voice of a young child calling for Max. We open up on Max, played by Tom Hardy. He's like taking a piss, and then he steps on and eats a two-headed lizard. So, just to let you know that it's a nuclear wasteland thing because everything has two heads. So, at least that's how they did it in Fallout all the time. So, which of
Well,
course,
here's the thing I got. This is how one. So the original, the Road Warrior, or no, the original, the first one, the Mad Max was technically set in 1984.
okay,
Even though that was a little bit better. The Road Warrior was set 3 years after Mad Max, so 1987.
okay,
And then Thunderdome was in the 90s, but we don't know, like 91, 92. And then it doesn't really throw, because I know there was a nuclear war between the Road Warrior and Thunderdome.
okay, yeah,
Like that hadn't happened yet. And but this is like, and then yeah, so actually, because yeah, okay, so as according to this, as Fury Road, because there was a prequel comic that like tied the Thunderdome directly to Fury Road. It's like, oh, these people knew this was set in the same region.
okay,
Like these people knew, the people who did people who ran Bartertown knew who Immortan Joe was. Like
okay,
those people were related because the prequel was Mad Max getting the Interceptor back. That's what he did between Thunderdome and Fury Road.
okay.
He's
Right.
getting the engine back from the Interceptor, because the Interceptor is never in Thunderdome,
Yeah.
but that he's seeking it, I guess. So he has to go back to Bartertown, and because the kids get on the train with the little guy with all the, master who runs, Bartertown.
Yeah.
And so that he gets them to safety, and then he's like, well, I got to find my car because that's necessary.
Well, also like the thing, but I guess the interesting thing that could work for all this stuff. Actually, it works less here, but maybe Max is just an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, there's also that possibility.
Is that except for Mad Max, but Road Warrior and Thunderdome, they are presented or bookended by a storyteller. So, like, why does these canons not match up? Because they're told by the story is being told by like an oral narration of Mad Max, and of course, there's wrong facts and all that stuff. You can always add it up to that. That's what's going on here. It was actually kind of sad too, because you think like, okay, how far in the future is this being told? And being that they got all their facts wrong, it means like we never recovered from this.
Yeah. Well, it's also like Mad Max is like a you go back to like the legends of King Arthur, or the gunslinger that walks into town in the Old West. It's always that the Joseph Campbell hero narrative.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not really him. He doesn't have much to say. It's just the stories people tell about him.
Yeah.
And the incidents that went on when he arrived and then when he left. It's like, you don't even know what the guy did for sure, but you know what people want to believe, that there was this one irreplaceable man that could handle all these things for him and came and showed him the way. led
Yeah.
them out of darkness into the promised land or whatever, which is like, well, it's just the Bible and everything else.
um, or even like in the Man with No Name trilogy, where it's technically he's not the same character in any of those movies.
Yeah.
He's just the guy you know in a
The
different
ageless
circumstance.
stranger. Well, no, that's Satan, but yeah, you know.
What was that? Paint the Town Red?
Yeah,
They
I
invoke
think so.
satanic imagery to frighten people, and
Yes.
then the whole town kills themselves because they realize that they're bad people too, or something like that.
Yeah, it's like the mirror is like, where's Satan? And hold the mirror up. He's there. Oh no. Then Rod Serling comes out smoking a cigarette, like, you've all failed the test.
What you have just witnessed. um, yeah, now I want to see like I want the wasteland to be like the end of AI, but they just find Mad Max like in a block of ice, and they perfectly recollect exactly what happened to Mad Max. Like there's no error in the storytelling, there's no myth. It's just a guy.
He was good at surviving, but he didn't really, lay out his plans very well.
um. Let's see here. So yeah, he eats a two-headed lizard, and then Max hurries and throws his stuff in his car and takes off. Yeah, he's driving the Interceptor here, which tragically and comically is almost immediately destroyed. But that actually happens in like every Mad Max movie. So
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
only movie it didn't happen was the first one.
but I mean, his car he had does get immediately destroyed. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember like I think we watched Road Warrior for something on Greed Factory, and then I was shocked to like how quickly the Interceptors destroyed in the movie. It's like, man, I remember being this like something that lasted to the end of the end of the show. It's like, nope, it's kind of like gone within the first 25 minutes.
Yeah. If you've actually ever driven a charger or a car with a supercharger on it, it's like, yeah, that's pretty much their life expectancy too. They're made to go fast and explode.
um. So you see him being chased by war boys, which will be introduced to them throughout the movie. But because I've already seen this movie, I'll just call them the war boys. They are the white painted guys that have all sorts of weird cancerous lesions on them, but they also seem to be in very good shape. But they're also like willing to die very easily. But also, it's later apparent that they're going to die of cancer or something pretty soon anyway. So that's why they are the way they are. So, and are they all descended from Immortan Joe?
We're assuming so.
Okay. I can't remember if that's like cemented in Furiosa or not, or something like that.
Well, you don't see any other women around, so you have to assume that these all come from the same germline because there's not like extra women. Furiosa is unique because she's the only woman that's not one of Immortan Joe's wives.
Yeah. So yeah, the cool Interceptor car is immediately blown up and rolled away. This is Nathan's. I mean, this is your favorite car vehicle, right?
Yeah, for movies. Yeah, my favorite fantasy car.
Okay. I mean, do you like it more in the original Mad Max or do you have a preference of what version you like?
I like it in Mad Max.
Okay.
I like it when he when he like just wipes out the biker gang with his car. It's like sheer brutality and just I'm gonna run you off the road.
Okay.
And it's obviously like a very powerful, dangerous thing. It's it's like a really cool car. He knows how to drive it. He's also like you don't ever want to play chicken with him because he just doesn't. He'll always time it right.
Yeah, and this was a in Australia this was a Ford Falcon, but in everywhere else this was it a Mustang everywhere else?
It's essentially Falcon XB is essentially a longer chassis Mustang,
Okay.
what we would call it. There's some very unique things in Australia where cars require larger gas tanks and they travel greater distances than what we do here. because essentially Australia is a country. Imagine America, but there's no Midwest. You just live on the coasts.
Yeah.
Can't, because the interior is just a place to get resources, but not to hang around. So yeah, they have some very unusual cars. The only other country in the world I know of that has a hot rod culture besides America
Oh
is
yeah.
Australia.
Okay.
They very much a lot. We could learn a lot from each other as far as what they did over there. But that's because they had cheap gas, giant engines, and large distances. Same thing we had, but a little different with that. Much more dangerous to live in Australia than North America,
But there was
except for winter makes up for it.
But there was two different cars. There was a Ford Falcon and a Ford Mustang, and then eventually it just became a Mustang in America. And then they just kind of the Falcon was really popular in Australia, and they just changed the Mustang into the Falcon over there. So a Mustang in Australia has been a Falcon for like until they stopped making cars there for
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
because Australia also had like a unique Ford manufacturing thing where they made like a they made their it's a unique what do you call those cars with it's just a car with a truck bed, the El
Oh, the
Camino.
like El Camino type
Yeah,
vehicles. Yeah.
they had like an El Camino like truck there that only Australia Ford made, so
Yep. Yeah, they were made at the Z. What's that? What was that place called? I forget. They don't make Fords there anymore.
yeah.
It was the one facility they had there, but yeah, it made those and something else, and everything had a giant V8 or a V6 engine in it later. And like I said, very large. Seem to have larger tanks for fuel than what we had.
Yeah.
They carried a little more fuel, and I think they like the longer wheelbase vehicles. I don't know all the details, but I know that
Didn't they
there's
usually have like a bit higher clearance?
yeah, yeah. They didn't have the kind of road system we did.
Yeah, because
Well,
like,
what kind of road system we're supposed to have, not the one.
I think because then what's that called? Is that washboard effect? Like they'd have like the sand would drift onto the road and
Yeah.
like it would become like a washboard and it just like so
Yep.
that was you had to have a higher you had to have your car higher up or off the ground and have a shock system that can handle the distance of travel. So
Yeah, and they use a lot of reusable filters where we just use throwaway filters.
okay.
Because I know like the washable filter, like that was something that caught on in America in the 90s. It's like, oh, you can just wash these and reuse them. It's like, yeah, they've been doing it in Australia since the 50s. Like, oh, that's cool. Because what it does is you just put like a coat of oil on it, and then it would just like, get all the particles in it. And then you put like a degreaser on it when you washed it, which would wash the oil and all the particles would go away with it. And then you just reused it. And we used to just throw them away. But we were doing ours like every 3,000 miles, where they would have to do theirs every 500 miles. So,
Okay.
oh, this is getting expensive, mate. Come up with something. And like, yeah, you just make them reusable.
Then we get another. Yeah, so as the Inceptor is tipped over and rolls a bunch and is completely destroyed, get another Max saying, "I am the one who runs from both the living and the dead." So, because because there are some like flashbacks and weird like skull imagery imposed on top of his daughter, who seems to be like resentful of him being alive. At least that's his nightmare. So
Yeah, it's his imagining. We don't know if the daughter actually feels that way.
Hunted by savages, haunted by those I could not protect. Then we get a flashback to his child being killed, like run over by a car.
Motorcycle, but
oh, it was a motorcycle? Okay.
By the same actor who plays the bad guy in this.
Oh, okay.
The original toe cutter was a Morton Joe.
Oh, okay. Huh.
I believe. Yeah, I believe that was the case. Not the same character, just the same actor.
Oh, okay. So I exist in this wasteland, a man reduced to a single instinct, survive. And he's captured and taken away. It's not a great start for our title characters. They cut his hair and tattoo info on his back, which they focus on his blood type because he's like O negative, which is a universal donor.
Yeah.
So Max breaks free and he tries to run away, but he's like while he's running away, he's haunted by his daughter, and so that gives him like kind of pause, which kind of lets the war boys kind of capture him back a bit, but he's still able to get away. There's a lot of very like Sam Raimi stuff going on here. Like it's like undercranked, like it's kind of like that like Keystone Cops or not Keystone Cops. So what's the British guy that did all that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
It's like Barry something or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I like to go swimming with bow-legged women and swim between their legs. What's his name?
Let's see here. British.
Yeah, it's the name is right there, and I can't.
Fast moving comedy. That's not gonna get what we need. A fish con Wanda. Yeah, of course that's what I'm looking for.
No, I know. What is that guy's name? Damn it! Yeah. I can't think of it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Where they speed it up and they play the dun 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 dun, dun, yeah, that kind of music. Yeah.
Famous. What was that? 70s.
Yeah, I think so.
70s British comics. What a terrible thing to do in the middle of a great movie, but whatever. Here we are.
I can see the guy's name. I can't think of his name. That's really frustrating.
Because that was kind of after Monty Python and kind of lesser. That was more.
It's more earthy than just bizarre entertainment.
Yeah. It's gonna be British comics, no comedians. I guess I did write comics. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, internet. You're right. I'm wrong.
It's helping you to be better. Yeah, who is that guy?
Give me 20 seconds and then we're just gonna move on forever.
Benny Hill.
Yep, that's right.
Yep. Damn it.
So yeah,
we get it eventually.
Mad Max gets the Benny Hill treatment here. There's also kind of interposing of skulls and daughters and things and so. You'll get some of this stuff later on in the movie. There's some times where it's like it looks like a really expensive movie, and then some stuff looks like it's like old school. We're filming this in front of like a projection screen, and it doesn't look great, but it seems like it's on purpose. Like it's trying to be like, I guess, take you out of it. Like it's more of like this is what's in Max's mind rather than like we suck at making, special effects. So.
Yeah, it seems like, and yeah, a lot of there's a lot of things where they just want to show you that like this is a very damaged man.
Max opens a door where it's like a back of a bus kind of door, and then there's just an edge of a cliff, and we kind of get kind of like almost a Wile E. Coyote thing going on here. He's like trying to jump off, but then the war boys are ever to grab him back and pull him back in and close the door. Then we get the titles Mad Max Fury Road. Then we cut to Furiosa, played by Charlize Theron. She's getting in the war rig, which is just a big like tanker truck with like, saw blades and spikes and an extra little tanker on the back of the tanker truck. It's a very cool looking thing. It has multiple engines and all this other crazy stuff. It's almost like a what they call is land train. Well, no, it's more like a train. In Australia, they do have land trains where don't they have like a truck that's like hauling like 6 trailers and stuff like that?
Yeah, they call them road trains.
Okay.
Yeah, those go to the interior.
Okay. They're hauling Aqua-Cola to Gastown. And also nobody calls it gasoline, it's called guzzling.
Yeah.
For reasons. Because if you listen to like when they have the opening, you have like the broadcasts of like what's going on. They call it guzzling there too.
Okay.
So apparently in this universe, that's just what it's called. So, even though it is called Gastown, so they know what gasoline is. So, But I don't know, it feels like that's one of those things where it's like the breakdown to society, where it's like words lose their meaning and like their spelling and all that. So,
Yeah,
um,
everything seems magical.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There doesn't seem to be a lot of reading and writing going on in this world. So,
No.
so I don't know. What do you think are the percent of people can actually read in this world, Nathan?
Oh, it's probably, well, it's going to be on a sliding scale, but I would say that
Think
20% of the people could probably read.
okay. You think like everybody over 40 can read, but everybody
Yeah.
under it's like it's a crapshoot. um, we get a sickly but powerful Immortan Joe is suited up because you can see all his goiters. He's got a mask and all that stuff, but like, and even his suit kind of like kind of has fake abs on it, but he seems to be like, it seems like he can do some damage if he needs to. I can't. Is there ever like an explanation for like his whole suit and what's wrong with him or whatever?
No, not really.
Okay, it's just something interesting. So
Yeah, I mean, I know like if you go into the comic book world, it's like he was like a colonel in the Australian army,
oh okay,
and he led his people to this citadel where they could survive, and then that's where like the war culture came from, was like his past
okay.
of like, yeah, what if we were just like Spartans, but we don't have good food and we just drive around in cars and kill each other. It's like, oh, that's this culture.
Joe gets suited up and addresses the crowd. The crowd down below cheers Immortan Joe. Um, is Immortan supposed to mean anything, or is that just be something close to immortal? It just sounds weird.
I think so. I think it's the chopped language of this time,
Okay.
because nobody would you waste the time to say he's immortal. It just became he Martin. How they talk. So
Yeah, maybe all that stuff is like on him is like all the times he was meant to die from something and never did. So he became Immortal Joe, and then you just go 10 years further, and he's just Immortan Joe. So
yeah,
the Joe never loses its luster. It's always there. It's easy, one syllable.
yeah.
Joe talks about sending his troops to trade water for bullets and gas. Say we're also introduced to Gas Town and Bullet Town. Which is featured in the game that came out around the same time, which was kind of interesting.
Okay.
Because it basically like had to change the game around to try to like mimic some of the style of this movie, which is an incredibly stylish movie. You think it's unto itself an original thing, or is there anything else you think would be borrowed? This would be borrowing it from, or you think other things are borrowed from this, or is this a whole movie unto itself?
Well, I mean, this is kind of the classic, like, I don't know, the 80s, they started the Wasteland Warlords type movie.
Yeah.
And so everyone kind of looks like this. There was a lot more in the Road Warrior. There was a lot more of like an S&M type road gang with a lot more leather and chains, where these people are more like society has degenerated substantially even since the Road Warrior. Because like the Lord Humongous was weird, and his lackeys were definitely like, oh, these guys, it's probably a shortage of women that creates like men that act this way and dress this way and look this way. But the one guy, like his spokesman, was like obviously someone very intelligent, who was an intellectual. He used all these words, but at this point we're just into almost pure idiot society, because everyone's either dumb, born into a world of radiation and sickness, or like Immortan Joe, they're just dying of some, just something, constant exposure to radiation, bad food, whatever. So people are more propped up. So no, this is just what I call a logical decay of a genre that Mad Max kind of started. But it's
Well,
like they're doing it in a they're following through with what they started with.
well, usually I think like wasteland movies like this are very drab, but this has like high contrast and color to it that you wouldn't expect. That's why I feel like this is like, especially when you compare it to Furiosa, this is a much funner movie in that respects.
Yeah, this is what you call like rust and dust more than the other movies were. That's what I get out of this. Because this looks like something like shot in the interior of Australia. It's like, oh, they had to retreat from the cities because they were all nuked. and the interior of Australia is essentially a hellhole. So it's like, because you're right, right in the southern hemisphere in the hottest part of the world, and it's like, yeah, this would be a terrible place to live. But yeah, you're right. They don't make this. Yeah, it's not all gray.
It's not monotone.
Yeah, it's not all gray or red. Like they do a lot of red stuff. And what was that movie, Hardware? Everything was red in the wasteland where the guy goes and gets
yeah.
the robot. And,
Well, even here, yeah, they switched to it where it's like it's nighttime and it's blue, so that's kind of that contrast. So
yeah.
there's a lot more interesting contrast in this movie than what you expect of a wasteland movie, which I think I appreciated.
Well, this movie founded this. Every movie that came after this, especially the Road Warrior, was just a copy of the Road Warrior.
Yeah.
So yeah, when they do this, when they come back after 1987, it's like, we got to make this look cool. But they also followed with a kind of illogical degeneration as time had passed.
Yeah.
Because no one ever gets their shit together, and it's like, no, there's a newer, better civilization. It's like, no, it's just as these people's brains decay, so decays the world.
The sickly crowd gathers with bowls and cups to get water from Immortan Joe as he releases it down the cliff, but then he shuts it off and everyone's mad. Presumably, yeah, I don't know. Like, they kind of presume at the end that they could just let this thing, like, run for nearly forever, but it's, Immortan Joe controls it, and that's, where he gets his power from.
Well, he cautions the crowd, as every good capitalist will. Drink too much water, it only brings thirst. Like the people that control the spigots of money in our society, it's like, don't be too greedy. You only want. No, we sit on top of this pile of money. Trust us.
The war rig takes off, and there's theatrics around like raising an elevator. The war rig heads out, and Gastown is signal, which is a lot of cool, like, this is where you get a lot of color from too, is just like the different colored flares. Which I'm not sure if they're just making or it's like this stuff is just what's left over. So, because it doesn't feel like each color of flare means something. It's just there's flares in the air that means something. It's up for you to guess. There is some
there's not a lot of explanation of the factions that exist in this world, except that they're dangerous.
Yeah,
that there is a bullet and oil community, and Immortan Joe provides water.
And crops.
And crops. And so food. Well, that's the most important thing. And then there's also like random people in the middle.
Yeah.
Who seem to like worship saw blades or something.
Rusty saw blades.
Yeah.
I don't know, was that James Wan? He's Australian, so yeah. It's just all the saws left over from the Saw franchise.
Yeah. And the war rig also has a cool horn.
Yeah.
It's like the most satanic semi-truck horn. It's kind of like the horn in, remember Half-Life 2, the combine train horn?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, where it sounds vaguely discordant. It's like, you know what it is, but it's not right.
Yeah. I was trying to think what the horn in Maximum Overdrive sounds like, but I can't remember, so... I think it's just a truck horn. So.
Yeah, I think Maximum Overdrive.
This thing like bellows. So
yeah, this seems to have some depth to it.
It's got like a low register, but like a high range. I'm not sure how to say that, but it's less like it makes a noise and more that it like displaces the air around it, so.
Right,
and shakes everything. Oh yeah, also like Furiosa, she only has one arm and she has like a mechanical arm that assists. And
this mechanical arm would be the rival of anything we have in the world. Yeah. Now it's like it works so well.
I mean, it's basically Ash's hand from Army of Darkness. So yeah, and that's medieval times. So
yeah, that's true.
But yeah, then the car door is just like a skeleton. It has a skeleton arm on it pointing forward. So I don't know if that's like ironic or not.
I think I found the war rig horn.
Okay.
See if it'll play through. I don't know.
I heard a little bit.
We got to play this. It just has such a cool sound. Here we go. Let's see if this happens. Yeah, so it sounds like that slightly off effect.
Yeah.
Of like, yeah, I recognize that as a semi truck, but also something is wrong. This is something, because essentially technology would have stopped in this world in the 80s.
Yeah.
So that's what they're left with.
Or whenever Glock 17 came out, because that's like the latest technology that exists in this world.
Yeah, that's right. They did have a Glock in it. Those would have been around. I forget what those started appearing. Like, I know No Country for Old Men got hacked for it,
Yeah.
but it's like, yeah, those were basically generally around by the mid to late 80s.
Okay.
Because I know they almost put Heckler and Koch out of business overnight. Like, they completely changed their business model. Because the German police were just obsessed with safety.
Oh, okay.
Which is like, yeah, that's why the Glock appeared. Because it's like, oh, it's instantly ready and safe. Because before that, you had, like, I don't know if you remember, like Phil's gun, the squeeze cocker. Yeah. Which is where you had to grip the handle, and then you know, that was called an intrinsically safe West German gun, and which is the German police were worried about that. It's the only police force I know in the world that was worried about. We don't care. We're just like, put guns in hands. We want like clickable safeties. Carry them with bullets in the chamber. We don't care. I mean, we'll tell you like, no, officially you can't do any of those things, but yeah,
that's always the weird thing where it's like a revolver, a bullet's always in the chamber. Well, it's in the it's in the cylinder, but essentially it's always in the chamber. But it somehow feels more safe than if you have a semi-automatic with a bullet in the chamber. So, but also usually revolvers have a lot heavier triggers to them. So,
yeah, that's because with a revolver you're engaging an entire mechanical action. You're swinging a cylinder, firing a hammer, and police should go back to carrying revolver. It should be optional for the officer. It's like, what do you want, 30 shots, or do you want a 357 Magnum? It's like, well, let's go practice with that. And if I can get good at that, I only need to use it once. Because guess what? That's not bouncing off window glass or anything. That's tunneling straight through. So, but anyway.
But then that's where you got like the SIG. Was it the 226 or 229? I can't remember, but like it's a great gun, but it has a really, really incredible hard first trigger pull, and then it's just really like hair trigger after that.
Oh, because it's a single action, double action.
No, I mean it's all double action. It's just like the first trigger pull is really heavy because like that's Andrew. That's the gun he has. Like we.
Okay, yeah.
So it's So if you load, I'm not sure how it does it, but like when I'm not sure if it's like on the first like loading the magazine, but it has like the first trigger pull is really heavy, and that switches to a different mechanism, and then everything's like a swift pull after that. And it was done that way for like so police getting antsy or whatever don't accidentally fire as they're like pulling the gun out of the holster. So it's like it's a make sure you want to fire first round, and then once you fired that one, you might as well fire the rest, and then it's like a hair trigger after that. So.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
But that's also like that was a hammer fired pistol, so like different mechanics where everything's just basically striker fire now. So yeah, then we get we cut back to Max. He's being forced out of his cell to be a blood bag for a war boy, where they just directly hook him up to a guy to do a blood transfusion.
Yeah, direct transfusion.
Then we cut to Furiosa. She suddenly turns off the road. There's some contention about them heading east, where like the war boys along with her are like, "Where are we going, boss?" And it's like east. And it's like, is this like a feint or something like that? It's like it's a like a new direction or something like that. So basically, she's got to figure out like it's kind of sad like because like it's like eventually like all these guys have to die, and they're like, but there's like in this moment they're like they're a team, they're working together, but like their loyalties lie elsewhere, so they'll have to die. So Um, then we cut to Joe's milking farm, where it's just a bunch of like big ladies being milked, and then you have, was it Rictus? He's like sipping the milk. Is like, yeah, good. So, another guy in this movie who seems to be like dubbed.
Yeah.
And he's an
I don't know
interest.
if it's because they just found a muscle man who couldn't deliver dialogue well, or
I don't know. I mean, he's all over Furiosa, which here he seems like, like a simpleton who's being used by his father, but in Furiosa he's like, oh, this is like a child rapist. Okay, that guy deserved to die.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's I didn't get, I probably didn't get as much out of this, but there is a lot of direct comparisons between Furiosa and this, obviously. But there's a lot of things where it's like, oh, that's where that came from. That's where that came from, which I don't know helps it, but it's interesting. So, let me cut to Joe runs to his vault and sees like his harem of women are gone. So this is just like a bunch of like the like the least disease-ridden ladies in the city being used as like his own sex slaves, and all he does is just like get them pregnant, and he's like keeps waiting on having the perfect child, because like every child has like some weird deformity. Because even they have like the one guy who's like looking through the scope, where it's like, it's some guy with this deformity, where it's like that's Immortan Joe's kid, right? Like they're all his kids. So, which that's actually like a thing that George Miller has always done, is like hire people that have like some sort of deformity and stuff to act in his movies, and be given like, not just made freaks. They're like, hey, here's a character with like a certain like dimension to them. So, um, let's see here. So yeah, I have to be in Act One. So it's like, okay, uh, Furiosa is taken away. Joe's harem. Max is being used as a blood bag, and now they're all going to go after Furiosa. So we got Act Two. We got Nux, this is played by Nicholas Hoult. He's getting blood, direct blood transfusion from Max. A war party is being sent out to get Immortan Joe's prisoner wives back. There's talk of an imperator going rogue, because that's it. What's her full official title? Is it Imperator Furiosa, or what's like?
Yeah.
Okay, which is a
It's
cool
very,
name.
very Roman sounding.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of mixing of stuff. Roman, Valhalla, Spartans, all that stuff is just all mixed together here. So
Yeah.
we get the War Boys grab steering wheels from a pile. Nux fights a guy for a wheel, and then so he convinces them that they're taking the blood bag with them. Which is there any backstory, or was he like in the first party, or like why Nux is like kind of out of it here?
Well, I think he's starting to go into like the middle stages of cancer.
Oh, okay.
So that's why they're giving him, because later on he has like tattoos of smiley faces on his lymph nodes that are swollen with cancer.
Okay.
So he's giving I don't know what blood transfusions would do in that case.
Yeah, because I thought he was just in a previous encounter we never saw, and that's why he's weak or
No,
something.
not that I'm aware of. I just think he's kind of
yeah, because that's what he directly says later on. He's like, that's they're asking him like why he has to hurt himself. It's like, oh, it's because I'm gonna die if anything, anytime. So I want to go out in a blaze of glory. So I was like, oh, that's sad.
Yeah, because they have a guy later. You find out that he was also in Furiosa, called the Organic Mechanic.
Yeah.
Now we don't know if that guy's a doctor or just somebody who's very familiar with, but they seem to be getting a lot of ideas from him.
Yeah.
About what to do, and it seems to be like a lot of this rough country medicine. It's like, yeah, just drain all the blood out of this guy, and it'll get rid of his blood for a while. Which is like true, that will work, but it's also something you can find out about whole blood transfusion, why they don't do that anymore, and there's all kinds of but it doesn't matter in this world. It's just like, just make it work.
Yeah.
Where are they getting the hollow, sharp needles to do this? It's like, oh, they're probably taking like football needles and grinding them at an angle. It's like the worst stuff you could imagine.
So yeah, they're out driving. Max's car has been rebuilt, but one of the other guys is driving it. Um, Nux kind of has like, oh, what's he got? He's got kind of a hot rod thing going on here. Like, was that like a Model A or something like that? Or
Let me look it up. I called him up. Most of these things, believe it or not, don't have an identifier. It's custom built for movie.
yeah,
Some of them are. They do have what they're based on.
yeah.
It's going to be one of the 5-star cars because they have so many. I just got like a list of them here.
Yeah.
Where's the big 5-star? Because the war rig, there is no consensus. People say that is a Russian truck because of the tubular chassis that's apparent in later scenes. Other people say no, that's an American-built road train for the Australian market.
Oh, okay.
But no one can say. Let's see. What does it say? Where is the 5-star Nux vehicle at? Damn it. This is what everyone... It's like, we've only had 2 weeks to prepare for this, and I've definitely got my shit together. 1932 Ford is what it shows up.
Okay, all right.
Because he did have the guy on the back, but that guy doesn't play a part very long. So yeah,
I mean, he's throughout the movie, so
that's a 1932 Ford. No, that is not the right one. That is the one from the Furiosa's war party that doesn't know what's going on.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's a T bucket. That's what they call it.
Okay.
Vehicle, generically.
But also we just get a bunch of crazy vehicles that are out here, including the mobile wall of speakers with a guy playing a flame-throwing guitar. That's what it's like. Yeah, we're doing it.
Which is actually really cool.
Yeah, you either like buy. I think the flame-throwing guitar sells this movie because you either buy it or you think that's bullshit. So.
Well, it's where the movie becomes like, am I watching an animated feature? Like, this is so ridiculous. Because then you have the guys on the back of that just playing. You have 6 guys like beating drums. It's like that would be the wildest thing ever.
Yeah, and like the drums like have like a giant tube leading to it, so it echoes the drums even louder and stuff. And it's.
But see, this is like how the world of Mad Max escalates.
Yeah,
because you have the Road Warrior, which is like there's a civilization there, but essentially oil embargoes and economic collapse is degrading it. But it still makes sense that like the Road Warrior makes sense. Or I mean, Mad Max.
Mad Max.
Sense.
Okay.
By the time you get to the Road Warrior, it's like, well, this is a world in steep decline with no organization, no central government. But yet, what are they trying to capture? A refinery, which would fuel all their vehicles. And then by the time of Thunderdome, it's like there's not a lot of fuel left. So we're being pulled by camels and vehicles, or we have certain aircraft that are flying. And, Bartertown works on pig shit and methane, natural gas. Like that's what makes Bartertown the jewel of the desert. By the time of Fury Road, it's like, yeah, we're just nuts. We got all the bullets, gas and food we could need, but we're going to kill each other in the most ludicrous ways possible. We're going to have a giant,
you're not. They don't just fight each other. They put on a show. It's theatrics on top of death.
It's like the stuff you like. It's like pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Death. I mean, this guy's guitar is also a flamethrower.
Yeah.
Like it's dual purpose. How you keep that thing in tune with heat coming out of the end of it, I don't know, because that's going to warp the wires. Okay.
Well, also he doesn't have any eyes, so like he doesn't seem like he could actually fight anybody either. Like, where are they? Who knows?
Yeah, you just make a sound and he covers you with flame, which in this universe would be acceptable. It's like, that's a reasonable system.
But yeah, like the if you like think too far into it, it's like, man, the amount of resources have to go into getting just this wall of speakers going. It seems to be not worth it. But to Morton Joe, it's like, no, I need to send a message. So.
But would be, if you could make it work, would be wildly intimidating to your enemy. Show up with stuff like that. It's like, see, and that's the kind of wars he's fighting, or wars of thought and and like peacocking and
Yeah.
strutting. It's not really like the wars we fight now is like we have submarines that can shoot nuclear missiles anywhere in the world. We have floating cities full of death planes, and we're creating weirder and weirder robots every day. In this universe, you don't have any of those resources. So what you've got left is basically, oh, we're tribes of people moving in the vestiges of the last running vehicles we can find. Oh, it's like, yeah, it makes sense, but it's also ludicrous at the same time.
Yeah.
It would be more scary more efficient if one guy drove it and you had a cassette, or better yet, a reel-to-reel tape playing this loud cacophonous music,
Yeah.
because you wouldn't have to feed 6 drummers and but it looks cool. So
Nuts gets inspired by Morton Joe like slightly glancing at him or his direction, and so he hits the nitro and takes the lead of the convoy, or whatever it is. He like opens up a bottle. So
it's nitrous oxide, essentially.
Yeah.
That's always been a staple in Mad Max.
Yeah.
And nitrous oxide in real life is, I don't know, maybe other professionals will disagree with me, but a good way to either go out of control very quickly and or destroy your engine.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it super oxygenates. I mean, it's going to go really fast, but man, it is going to be really hard on shit. But in this world, it doesn't matter because they just seem to have unlimited spare parts or something. I don't
They got it working. They don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, later on we see it's got kamikaze features to it, so obviously it wasn't built to last. So
No, yeah, everything is purpose built in this world for one thing, which would not make it scalable in any way at all.
We're back with the war rig. They're curious about like what they're doing. The war boys on here. They're being hunted by scavengers, or I think they call them buzzards.
Yeah.
But then I was confused because then Nux has like a little buzzard head in his car, and so I didn't know if he was like, that's what those guys are called, or if he just likes calling things buzzards or whatever.
I think they called them buzzers.
Okay.
Like buzzing saw blades.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because they were all Russian too. I don't know if you pick up on that.
Oh no,
they're
just covered in spikes. That's all.
To each other. Yeah, they're very weird, but they're all talking to each other in Russian. The few
okay.
dialogue you hear.
Okay. So yeah, the lead car hits a trap where it just gets like hit by a chain and then falls in a hole and then like weirdly like just spins in one place and falls into a spike pit. And then like Furiosa has to like steer the rig around that. There's like people that, oh yeah, they hit these guys. There's like one of the big like weapons the war boys has are just like explosives on the end of sticks.
Yes. Essentially grenades on the end of sticks that are contact activated.
Yeah. And lots of buzzsaw stuff going on here. So because not only are they spike cars, but they have like these little arms with buzzsaws that come out and hit the truck in various ways. They hit the tires and stuff. Although I think there's only one flat tire in this whole fucking movie.
Yeah. They figured ways around it. A lot of bead locking rims, a lot of metal just like sticking out to actually block things from piercing the tires.
Yeah.
Which is always the weakest thing. Like Mad Max is cool, but in really like car to car fighting, your weakness is always your tires.
Yeah.
That's why militaries use tracked vehicles a lot. Tracked vehicles are horribly inefficient. They require teams of men to maintain, but when they work in the 9 hours of runtime versus 18 hours of maintenance they usually do, that's why you have armies. That's what the word army means. It's like lots of men to fix them. They work well. But in the world of the Road Warrior, it's like, yeah, it's the weakness is always pop tires. Because once those tires go flat, there's nothing. Even the Secret Service is like, we have run flat tires, and it's like, yeah, that's only good till the ceramic disc breaks down. It'll get you down the road and out of action. But yeah, once that balloon full of air is breached, it's like it's over. So you have to find clever ways around it. You skirt the things down to the ground, or you put the big pieces of metal, you weld them inside the wheel so it kind of protects the wheel and acts like one of those chariot grinders from Ben-Hur. But I don't know how you balance said wheels to run at high RPMs because they have random bits of metal welded to them. Don't ask too many questions. You just go with it.
If you accept the flamethrower guitar, you're accepting this.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Because really, I mean, the ultimate Mad Max warriors, the vehicles we've seen, we've already seen it in the real world. It's Afghanis and Toyota Hiluxes, 50 calibers, or better yet, the rocket pods from helicopters in the back of a pickup on a frame with dudes standing behind it like fire. It's like, get out of the way. So yeah, those are the real Mad Max vehicles. But as we've seen from videos, from once they run into like, I don't know, like an American mechanized division, it's like, yeah, that stuff just gets wiped away like a hand of God. It all looks cool until somebody fires an Abrams tank at it, or a Law rocket or something. It's like, yeah, you're done. We just killed 4 people. But I guess the pickup trucks with the heavy machine guns, we'll say 50 calibers. They weren't using 50 calibers. They were using Russian stuff. I guess those can be devastating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, until you just like fire back at it with, like 7 guys with machine guns fire at it, and just all the tires pop and all the people inside explode. It's like, well, that's that. But, it won't take out a tank, but it will screw up a bunch of like men running around in armor. So
yeah.
Those are the real Mad Max vehicles. Toyota Hilux pickups ran off an assembly line at thousands per night. I mean, it'd be cool if the Afghanis like made tractors into like giant vehicles. Like, wow, this is artful. It's like, what do you think? Oh, shoot artillery at them for sure. But that looks cool.
Well, they're probably more effective just like tying a mortar crew to a donkey and then moving through like the hills.
Oh, the Charlie Wilson's war paradigm. It's like, yeah, can we give them Ehrlichons? It's like, yeah, but they weigh 700 pounds. They'd have to strap it to a donkey and set it up in a fixed position. Would it shoot down a hind? It's like, yeah, but all the guys would die in the process of setting it up.
There was the one guy that like shot down like 3 Spetsnaz helicopters with just a machine gun in the hills. So.
Yeah,
because they have an audio recording of it like going on. It's like, man, we just destroyed $30 million worth of Russian equipment.
Just cost the Soviet military a fortune.
We gave this guy like a $3,000 machine gun and put him in the hills. He's wearing flip-flops firing at this guy.
Well, and he was also somebody crazy enough to like hide in a cave and fight a hind helicopter. If the pilots were trained well enough, a hind is devastating. Like, did you ever hear about like why we destroyed all the ones they had in Iraq in the first Gulf War? It was like we made those like an aerial target priority.
Oh, okay.
Every missile, every plane, anything we had in the air, it's like destroy the hind, Mi-27s. And it's like, why? It's like, oh, that's like their A-10. It's like if those hit our tanks, they're going to just wipe out our tanks. And we actually stole one of those. We were so afraid of. We stole it from Ethiopia. Just sent guys in that knew how to fly it, and just they snuck in and boom, they just fired it up and flew it out of the country. And we analyzed it, and it's like a lot of Soviet era stuff. We're like, oh, why were we so afraid of this? We thought it was going to destroy our, world.
What was it? I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if they had efficient engines, but it was like it's heavily armored. It had a lot of weapons on it, and it was also like you could put troops on it too and drop like 6 troops off on it, right? So just
12.
Oh, 12. Okay, so it did a roll. It just did a little roll. Yeah,
it was mostly titanium. That was the thing they hated about it.
Okay.
Because the Russians have just unlimited amounts of resources to pour into their badly built stuff. And yeah, it was like the pilot set in a titanium bucket.
Okay.
So unless you could get like a Stinger missile or some kind of heavy support gun into the engines, that guy could just like kind of hover. because if you pay attention, like the hind pilot section kind of looks like this, but the weapons sort of buck out like this. And he had kind of this horizon targeting system there. And he could fire all those rocket pods and guns at any position, but still just be taking fire from the ground constantly and be, essentially impervious to it. And they, because they never designed something like an A-10 Warthog, but the Hind was essentially very close to it.
Well, yeah, the A-10 also has a titanium tub to.
Yes.
Like exactly. The A-10's. Well, it's built to keep the pilot alive. So
yeah,
it was also the only plane we ever built to like an actual budget. It's like these are going to cost $1.6 million. It's like, what do they cost when they finish production? Like $1.6 million. Like,
what's the flyaway cost with 10 years of maintenance? $1.6 million. That's not possible. It's like, oh yeah, it is actually.
Well, it has like one technological advancement, and then everything else in that plane is basically a World War II fighter jet. So
yeah.
It built a brand new Vulcan cannon, and then they built a very reliable plane around it. So
I think it's the only combat aircraft where if you let go of the stick, it just flies straight because of how the wings are designed.
Oh, okay.
You let go of it, it just flies straight. It's like it goes back to autopilot, including and if 40 to 50% of the wing surfaces, you just let go of the stick, it flies straight again somehow, and an engine's missing. It's like, holy crap! Okay. Anyway, back to the
yeah, they don't have an A-10 in oh, they did weirdly have them in was it the weird Terminator, well, one of the weird Terminator movies, the one with
Sam Rockwell, or no
Batman.
It was the Terminator heart transplant movie.
Terminator Salvation. They were like fighting the Terminator fighter jets with A-10 Warthogs and winning. It's not really a fighter jet, but
winning. But they were devastatingly effective to the Terminators on the ground. But they couldn't so much get away from the actual Terminator fighter planes.
Yeah.
Because they just weren't maneuverable enough. But yeah, as far as the big Terminator robots on the ground, like, oh yeah, they would wipe them out. That's actually what they would do.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you design, nothing's going to stand up to that cannon. Throwing like a pint-sized bottle of depleted uranium at you. Yeah, that's it. You're done.
So yeah, we get Immortan Joe's convoy catches up with the war rig. They start fighting off like the buzzards or whatever before they start fighting Furiosa. So they have their priorities. We get one of the war boys gets shot with an arrow. It's like goes through his cheek and like out the back of his head and one in the chest, and like he comes back too, and then he gets up. It's this like silver spray paint, sprays it in his mouth and screams, "Witness me!" and then kamikazes himself with two of those boom spears and kills himself on a buzzard vehicle, and everyone's all happy about it because he just went to Valhalla for the propaganda they've been fed. So
and all the war boys like point at him and say, "Witness."
Yeah.
That was fun for my son playing football. And there were tackle drills, and he had to go up against like fucking like state champion guys and be tackled. He'd always be like, "Witness," and just get knocked over completely. It's like, yeah, all the people on the team thought it was funny because he get tackled by a high school guy that weighed 300 pounds. It's not human, but okay. That's an orc, son. You got tackled by an orc.
I remember I made one joke. I dared to make one joke in boot camp. Because the drill instructors were talking about something we're going to do that's really going to fuck us up, and and they're basically asking for volunteers, and I go, I volunteer as tribute.
And did they like?
They had no idea what the fuck I was talking about, but some of the 18-year-olds laughed at that. So.
At least somebody got something out of it. Yeah, that's what my son thought was funny. He would say like "witness" right before he's like doing tackle drills with the All-American. It's like, not. And I lost track of time and space. It's like, yeah, It's it's fine.
So yeah, this is very famous, and I think, yeah, it's a funny punchline to just say "witness me," like your son just used. So it's a great
Yeah.
thing
Oh,
to say. I don't know when the last time I've said "witness me," but it's a great joke.
usually when I get on the freeway,
So.
saying it to myself, no one's appreciating the humor.
We see some of the wives are like crawling around the truck because like the war rig just has like all sorts of nooks and crannies around it because it's basically like a land aircraft carrier. So
Yeah.
there's a crew working on it. It's always got to be moving. Um, then we get like the buzzsaw backhoe truck. It's like a combination of they got a backhoe on the back of it. It's got buzzsaws. They're trying to break down the war rig. It finally gets destroyed. It like kind of rips up some parts of the war rig, but the war rig's still going. Um, then Furiosa drives the war rig into a sandstorm, and Nux and the war rig and the war rig crew like start fighting Furiosa. So this is where like they kind of figure out like something's wrong and they start fighting against her. Um, Max gets let down. Oh yeah, he's on the front of Nux's car, like sort of like a what do you call that? The thing on the mat where they have like the lady on the mast of a ship. That's what he's doing here.
Yeah, he's like a yeah, I forget what they call that.
uh, but like one of his tires gets shredded, and so they move Max to the back of the car because also Nux has a buddy who's supposed to throw these boom spears or whatever. Um, and so they use Max as a counterweight to lift up the car because it's only driving on 3 wheels right now. So, and he hits the nitro, and they go into the storm with it. Um, Max fights the guy and knocks him off.
Oh, sorry.
Uh, Nux like shields him. He like closes down the parts of the car so like Max can't get to him, but he's not closing it down because Max is trying to get to him. He's just like we're going to a storm, so then we get inside the storm and it's just like really cool. It's like fire, lightning, and tornadoes and sand. It's like
Yeah, it's like a sand static storm or something. Really crazy.
It looks really cool. And if you've ever like watched videos on YouTube of like Australian sandstorms, like they do look like this. They're not tornadoes, but like it's just this oncoming billows of sand. And then like when you drive into it, just like everything turns dark and you can't see anywhere. So, um, and there's all sorts, yeah, and you gotta look up like survival videos for that stuff too, because there's a lot of stuff like you wouldn't think. It's like, oh, do you just like wait this over? It's like, dude, you might be in a sandstorm for like 12 hours or something like that. So.
And it's gonna wear you. It's like putting your face in front of a belt sander. Like it's gonna do to your skin.
But yeah, I think you even like I think you're supposed to like close down like the, like the, yeah, because you got to do all stuff with like all your air system and stuff like that. You got to shut that down or recirculate the air so you're not pulling in the dust and stuff like that, and all sorts of things you have to consider with not just you surviving a sandstorm, but like you and your vehicle surviving a sandstorm and pulling off to the side and turning on your blinkers because some people are just like, oh, I'm just gonna barrel through this, and then they might hit like 40 cars or something like that. So,
Yeah.
because like your headlights basically don't work anymore because there's too much debris that they just bounce back at you. You don't see anything forward. But here it's a really cool like special effect. It's like it still looks cool to this day. It's not that long ago that they did this, but it's an expensive sandstorm.
Yeah, it is amazing looking.
This
you really get a sense of dread and awe in this movie.
Yeah.
Into the sandstorm, it's like, yeah, these are just going to destroy everything. Like, none of these can tolerate this.
Yeah, this is like George Miller's version of what's that, Saturn eating his son or something like that. Yeah. It's art, but it's terrible. This is also where we get like the famous Nux line, like, "Oh, what a day, what a lovely day." Which have other things used that? I mean, it seems like it's a too obvious thing, but I think some other franchises use like "What a lovely day" to like something British and terrible or something.
Yeah, I think this guy really, this actor Nicholas Hoult really, I hope I'm saying this name right. He really
Yeah, I think
seems
so.
to capture that kind of like, I don't know where he's from in England, but he seems to have like that working class like punk rock
Yeah, yeah,
like cadence to his voice.
yeah.
Even though it's supposed to be in Australia, I just think of this guy immediately. He's like, this is like a punk rock like cadence to his tone,
Yeah.
and it works fine. You know?
Yeah, he's great in the movie, and like he, being that Max only says like 4 words for the rest of the movie, it's like the only other, you know, and he has a character arc and stuff like that. So like those are
Yeah, you
important in
actually
the
feel
movie.
sympathy for him
Yeah,
because you just think when you see the War Boys, you just think, what a bunch of weirdos.
yeah.
Like what a brainwashed crew. But
What
it's like,
what a pointless like life too.
yeah,
Like, but
or a
then
life that makes perfect sense in the parameters of this world, which is even more depressing.
yeah.
It's like, of course they're going to act like idiots. They know they're being idiots. They don't have anything to live for.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the
Because
most.
I would rather be like consumed in an explosion than die of like post-apocalyptic desert cancer,
Yeah.
just a slow. It's like, yes, I'm jumping into spinning blades. It's of course.
um so yeah, Nux is like undoing a bunch of stuff in his car, and it's just like filling the inside of the car with the gas.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's like, okay, he's about to yeah, and I think he pulls out some silver spray and does the witness me.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has a whole thing he says. It's like, what is it? It's like, I ride forever, shiny and chrome.
Yeah.
Dies, he lives again. And it's like, so it's a whole like chant. I don't know if
Yeah.
that all comes out at the same time, but I think it does.
Yeah,
Because he's saying this and just lighting a road flare,
yeah.
car that's filled with gas, which is like, all you're gonna do is burn alive and lose control of your car. But I see he's trying to do a suicide run.
um so yeah, he lights up the flare and he tries to blow himself up, but the car just gets broken up and broken apart, and and magically the car never catches fire, and then we just fade out.
Yeah,
And fade back in fairly quickly, because really this movie's like a 2-hour car chase. So,
yeah,
so this is like one of the brief moments of reprieve in this movie. Because
yeah.
like
That somehow does not get killed when this car
yeah,
flips over. Because, like you said, he's just tied to the mast like a sailor in an old crazy.
well, he's undone for the mask at this point, and
Oh,
he's kicked that other guy off the car. So now he's just hanging on to the car, but he's also still chained to Nux. So, and he's got that mask on too. And this is post Dark Knight Rising, so I don't know if there's like a lot of comparisons there. It's like he's in a mask again. He's talking weird. That's the Tom Hardy signature.
yeah. We won't see anything this weird again until Raised by Wolves. He's doing the dialogue in masks.
um. Yeah, we fade in. Max rises from the sand. We have no idea how much time has passed, but it seems to be like not long.
No.
He takes the needle out of his neck, which like has like a fish hook to it, which just seems extra like gruesome.
Yeah. I like how the IV line, the blood line, is interwoven in the chain.
Yeah,
It's like there's so much good symbolism in that,
yeah.
and practical problem solving too.
Yeah, and just the contrast, which is this red line of blood in between the chain the whole time. So it's very Hellraiser.
Oh yeah.
Cenobite-esque. He pulls Nux from the car and he's trying to undo the chain that he's hooked to, but he's not able to. He grabs a shotgun and tries to shoot the arm off of Nux, but then
I like the shotgun decapitation attempt. Girls misfire. It's like, oh wow, he was just totally willing to do that. Okay, crazy. Just gonna blow this guy's arm off, but the guy was a lunatic. So
yeah.
yeah.
But he, it's like he's the title character. He's supposed to be, like, is he supposed to be a hero? And it's like, no, but he just reluctantly
surviving.
becomes the hero. So,
what does it say in my poster here for the Road Warrior? In the future, cities will become deserts. roads will become battlefields, and the hope of mankind will appear as a stranger. So that's always that's how he appears.
And this is probably a callback in some way to the first Mad Max, where he says you can cut through your arm faster than you cut through the handcuffs. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's like case hardened steel. Like you can cut through that in 11 minutes. You can cut through your leg in 3, or is something like that.
yeah.
It's a line I've always wanted to deliver to somebody, but I've never had the chance to, because I'd probably be in prison if I told someone that. So,
And I feel like that whole moment in that movie was what gave birth to the Saw franchise, which is also done by an Australian guy.
probably directly inspired by that. Me and Stacy watched Saw 1 the other day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I
She's like,
heard.
"Wow, these are good." I was like, yeah, the first one's like really good. You're right.
I heard that there's that funny one where like, well, it's not funny. It's just hilarious that Chris Rock was put in a serious horror movie, and he wrote it, and it was like offered to him by accident. He did that. It was called Spiral. It was part of the Saw franchise.
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah.
Okay. But I heard actually Saw X, which was like the last one they've done, was actually pretty good, but I just never bothered. I saw 1 through 3, and I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to see the other 6. So.
We were talking about it once, and I told, because she likes horror movies, but she doesn't like the gross out horror movies.
Yeah.
And I said, if you want an impending horror movie that kind of gets into gross out territory but is good, watch Saw. And if we didn't talk about it for 5 years, and then the other day she started watching it, and she's like, "Oh my god, it's like the keys inside the guy, and they have to get it out before the bear traps go off or whatever." Yeah, that's kind of cool, isn't it? I mean, like, who thinks of that?
Yeah.
And it's like, let's film this. It's like, oh my god, it's like, I said, this is where the concept of the escape room actually came from, was the Saw movies.
Well, I remember there was there was something I saw. There was like a sci-fi television series that would used to show sci-fi short films, and this is before Saw came out. And there was a French like horror short film called Pac-Man, which in French, Pac means barrel, so it's called actually Barrel Man.
Okay, all right.
And this guy wakes up, and there's just a bunch of weird bumps that have been sewn over and patched up, and so he's got like a razor blade, and he's got to cut these open, and inside each wound is a barrel that has a message on it, and like he has different stuff in it, and he's told that there's a key somewhere, and if he doesn't get to the key, he'll die. And then at the end of it, there's a barrel on the back of his neck that he doesn't know about, and he dies. And so it's like, so I was like, oh, this is like Pac-Man. So, and of course, nobody knew what the fuck I was talking about. So yeah, we cut to Furiosa has the Warwick stopped, and she's getting dust out of the air intake, just smacking it with a wrench. She also like took her arm off, so I'm guessing that must be uncomfortable to have on all the time. So
yeah.
And then we see Max carrying Nux comes upon them. We see the prisoner wives. They're all showering in the water and cutting their chastity belts off of themselves. It's very like like swimsuit kind of like shoot going on here. So. Yeah, I think is there multiple ladies pregnant or just one? Well, I guess I think one is like first stages of pregnancy, but there's one lady that's like fully pregnant. I think her name's like Splendid Amarok or something like that.
Yeah, the brides have weird names.
Yeah, one's called Cheeto.
The Fragile, the Dag, the Capable. Lenny Kravitz's daughter was Toast the Knowing, and the Splendid Angarad.
Yeah,
which is like his favorite one, which that comes from Norse mythology.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Max is holding him up. He asks for water, which the pregnant lady brings him the hose, and he just kind of sprays it through his metal mask. It's kind of funny. Now he wants to be cut free of the chain, so he just kind of holds it out and goes and just grunts, and then they get and then like while like one of the wives comes up to cut the chain, Furiosa takes the moment to charge Max. They fight. Furiosa doesn't have her metal arm. Um, I think she gets the shotgun, pulls the trigger, and it doesn't go off, and that's when she realizes that like, oh, this is all like a ruse. He never had the upper hand. So then she cracks open some skull on the rig, revealing a Glock. Which, if you watch Furiosa, was his name like Imperator or something? I can't remember the Imperator that like taught her everything in Furiosa, or at least stuff with the war rig. This
The
was
Prime Imperator.
yeah,
Something like
this is his Glock. So, um, which seems like the most modern thing in the entire Mad Max franchise.
yeah, that'd be futuristic in this world.
Because nothing else like stood the test of time, but because even they have like the rifle where it's just like I don't know what the hell this is, but it's like cobbled together and it's got all this weird like wooden stock that's just kind of hacked together on it and stuff like that.
Well, here's the weapons from the movie. They have a lot of like the Glock is the most modern gun, and it
Yeah.
even weirdly looks out of place in this movie.
Yeah.
Then they have the Luger, of course. They have a bunch of Beretta clones. The one of the ones from Brazil, this
Taurus
or Taurus,
Oh.
yeah, Taurus. And they have Mausers, and then they have those weird shotgun pistols, and they have a Browning high power, because of course they would. That's just a 9mm that looks like a 1911.
Yeah.
All Americans say it's like that's a 1911. It's like nah, it's a Browning high power. And then a Morton Joe has a Colt Anaconda, which he would, of course, it's stainless steel. And what are the other weird guns? Like somebody has one of those old British like Enfield revolvers.
Okay, yeah.
And then the guy who runs the bullet farm has two of those like
He's got two of everything.
he's got the long barreled 45 long Colts.
Yeah.
And then there's a shiny silver Ruger. Somebody has an Uzi looking thing that's not an Uzi, but it's something else. Something called a Commando, spelled with a K. So I'm guessing it's South African.
Yeah, sounds like something that.
And then somebody has an H&K MP5.
Oh, that's the Bullet Town guy. He gets what's he gets done with the revolvers. He pulls out two of those, and then he has two AK-47. So he just keeps having guns popping out.
And then there's a couple of double-barreled shotguns, both long and short. Pump-action shotguns from manufacturers I've never heard of, which I assume are just Australian. What kind of rifle?
Or Turkey. It seems like all knockoffs come from Turkey. So. Turkey or Brazil.
Okay, the long rifle with the ridiculously large telescopic sight was an SKS.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I fired one of those. That's a waste of a telescopic sight. Would not do anything. And then there's a musket from India, which is like, and then they have a Kentucky 54 caliber musket that shows up. Somebody has a lever action Winchester. Those are everywhere. Browning 50 caliber. Yeah, there's a lot of weird guns in this movie, but they're all like period correct. Except for the Glock. The Glock might be a little like there might have been 3 of those in Australia by the time. But we don't know. We don't know what kind of world.
Again, yeah. This is, I mean, this movie isn't told through a well, I don't know. There's a mention at the end of like the what is it called? I can't remember. Oh, I'll get to it. There's like they have a quote from like the first like timekeeper or something like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, the one that really throws this off is Furiosa.
Yeah.
Because it makes it seem like there was a 20-year time between when the Dementor captured Furiosa and then when she became the Imperator for a Martin Joe. And it's like, there's no way that much time passed.
Yeah.
Because Mad Max would be like 60 or something.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because it's all.
But again, like Furiosa's, that one does have a narrator, and it's like that's his imperfect recollection of what happened. Like he doesn't know the events; he just crammed it all together. So
Yeah.
that's the out you can give these movies, but they're also like Furiosa and Fury Road are directly linked, and it's kind of like the only time they do that in the Mad Max franchise. So.
Right. Yeah. And Furiosa's like you find out from Furiosa, it's like, oh, it's like lesbian warriors or something. So what do they call themselves? The tribe of the vulva or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that?
yeah. It's like Volvania or
Like,
something.
huh. Yeah, it's something like that. That's interesting. But in that world, it would make sense that women would act that way because men would all just be psychotic rapists
Yeah,
because there's rules. So it's like, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, you'll become the wives here if you're if you're not banding together against men.
yeah.
But also it becomes their downfall weirdly. So
Well, yeah, because there's a reason, like like the reason like all societies organize the way they have until present. What we're trying to undo now, but we might be causing problems for ourselves is if all the men die fighting but one and there's nothing but women left, guess what? Your society carries on. But if all the women die fighting and there's no women left, yeah, you die. So you're better off protecting the women than you are protecting the men. That's just like common sense 101. But now we're trying to say, well, everything's equal and everyone can occupy all these roles. But if we get back in a world of like lots of conflict and death, it's like, no, you're going to want to protect the women because, one man and 50 women, you can still have a civilization. It's not the other way around.
yeah,
At
but
least
we're never like fighting each other till the last like that. So
yet.
yeah,
Stay tuned. Once I get rid of nuclear weapons, if they sign treaties and they just ban them all, we'll be right back to that kind of fighting immediately with
um,
robots too. Also, somehow, Terminator robots will be involved, but they'll have like huge cables connecting them, and they can be feet, but they'll be there.
Furiosa and Mad Max fight over the Glock. Max kicks the mag out of the gun, but still has the bullet in the chamber, and so he kind of moves his head as the chambered round fires. Which that's accurate. Like Glock doesn't have a magazine safety, right? So it'd fire without a magazine in
I don't know. Let's find out. Hold on, let me see if, yeah, it will fire. You can pull the trigger. Actually, the same model used in the movie, only 3 generations newer.
Max gets the advantage. Nux thinks he's captured Furiosa for Imperator Joe, or not Imperator, Immortan Joe. Then Max just punches Nux and he takes the war rig for himself and he just rides off. And then Furiosa's like, grab everything and run. But also she knows what's going to happen because immediately the war rig sputters to a halt for a while because she has some special like kill switch sequence that you need to do to start the rig.
And I like that they did this because if it was just one switch under the dash, it's like Max already knows about those.
Yeah.
Because he had like fuses tied to the fuel tanks of his car. So
Yeah.
but she had to do it in a sequence. It's like, oh, okay. It makes because he would just reach under there and click. Because never mess with a guy who's confident enough to hook explosives up to his own gas tank. That guy has a lot of confidence in his own ability.
He is Mad Max. So yeah. Furiosa and the wives catch up. Furiosa talks about a kill switch sequence to get the war going, which every time they show it off, it's like, there's no fucking way I'd ever remember that if you told me it 10 times in the next half hour.
Yeah, that's called movie memory. It's like, yeah, do this, and that. Right, got it. I can't even remember the password to my phone if I write it down on a Post-it note. So, yeah. I always was like, man, I wish I had the memory of these people.
Yeah. Every time I like that's like a weird, like nervous thing I have in movies. Whenever like somebody says like you need to remember this, and they show it to them one fucking time. Now that makes sense for a movie. Like, why would you spend the time to actually learn something? It's like, no, you just got to be good at this. But that's like
you want to know something that gave me anxiety was in GoldenEye. Remember when he had the pin? It's like click it once, and it's a normal pin. Click it twice, and it's a bomb, and then click 3 times to disarm it, and the Russian guy kept twittering it around and clicking it. I was about ready to have a nervous breakdown. Okay, when does his head explode? Just get it over with.
But again, that like short-term memory stuff, apparently, like I don't know, maybe that's what normal people can do, but like that's like ADHD stuff.
Yeah.
At least I've been told. It's like, because I never like, as far as I know, it's like, well, I'm a human that can operate in the world. Clearly, I don't have ADHD. But then like you start to read into like what it is, and it's like you're like, wait, nobody, like, wait, everybody doesn't have to deal with this. Like, no, normal people don't. It's like, well, fuck everybody. I didn't know it was like overcoming a disability. I mean, not really, um, but apparently that's like a thing. There's a podcast I listen to, and a guy has like been recently like going to like therapy for like adult ADHD, and like one of the things is like being able to remember like a 6-digit number for like longer than 15 minutes. And I'm like, I never could in the world could fucking do that. So,
as soon as people are like, hey, Nathan, I got to tell you this sequence of things, I'm like, hold on.
yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? Texting? I was like, no, I'm writing down what you're saying. It's like, why? Is like, because this is how I work. You know what I found out though, when I learned like complicated series of operations, I would always have a notepad with me and I would write it down. Once I wrote it down, I would never consult those notes again.
Exactly.
Because for some reason, when I write it down, I always remember it perfectly.
Yeah, because it's a different way to get it to your brain, so you're using 2 avenues instead of 1. So
okay, I just thought that was some fucked up thing I did. I didn't know.
No, because you literally have to think of it. Listening to somebody talk and then like writing it down are different things. It gets to your brain in a different way, so it's more tactile. So maybe even like the motion you do, maybe when you remember it, like there's something in the motion that you remember or whatever. But there's like more than just somebody talking. But that's the other weird ADHD thing that I heard about. Again, I don't know if I have it. It's just like, wait, this isn't normal. But is the thing where it's like I constantly have to ask people to repeat themselves. And then as soon as they start repeating themselves, I'm basically like, shut the fuck up. I remember everything you just said like the first time. And then I just feel like an asshole. It's like, I'm listening to you, but like nothing's getting to me.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like that with books. It's like, hey, would you ever thought about rereading that book? And unless I loved it, I'd be like, no. Why not? It's like, because I remember everything that happened in it. Oh, well, do you remember what this character did in chapter 3? It's like, yeah, she died. Always remember it. I won't remember everything in precise detail, but I'll remember enough that if it wasn't something I was absolutely enthralled with, I'll never reread it.
Yeah.
So if it's not Lord of the Rings or the Gap Cycle or something like that, it's like, yeah, I'm never reading that again. It's like, yeah, because you can buy this book on Kindle and read it 20 times. It's like, no, I can't.
I don't think I've ever read a book twice.
Very few have I read twice.
Yeah.
And there's books that I've really loved, like especially like history books and stuff like that. It's like I should revisit that, but then I start and it's like I remember all this. skip, and then it's like, why am I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, yeah, but it's always fun to find out like, oh, you have problems as an adult. It's like, oh, you didn't know about this when you were a kid? No. It's like things I do, like walk into the middle of a conversation like, hey, this is what I'm interested, come on over here. It's like, are you ever been checked for autism? It's like, no, I'm not afraid to talk to people. It's like, that's not the only thing. Oh no, I don't know. Why are you worried about this? This isn't what I'm not interested in that. So why are we talking about it? It's like, oh, well, that's another clear sign. Like, no, everyone else is boring. That's the problem. But then again, I meet people that like have severe autism, and I'm like, nah, I'm fine. I just like to be alone, and I get into my hobbies. But what I don't have is like, hey, are you interested in something different than what I'm currently talking about? Yeah. Well, fuck you. I'm not doing that. Yeah. That too is a problem. But anyway, back to the movie.
Yeah. Well,
Back
I always think like ADHD is just like the kid who can't keep still. It's like, well, I can keep perfectly still and pay attention to something for 16 hours, but that's just because I can retreat into imagination. I'm not acting out physically, but mentally, I'm all over the place. Like,
yeah, oh, yeah, that's
like
me.
I'm politely smile. Yeah, that's how I am getting bored of what's going on, and like when somebody asks me something, I'll have to ask them to repeat themselves. Like, oh, I was more interested in what's going on in my head than what's going on in reality. So
Yeah, like I'll do something like dismantle a complex component and someone's trying to teach me about it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm listening to you, but I also want to stack all the red springs together on this diagram where it shows the red springs are. Like, are you paying attention? Is like, kind of. I am interested in what you're saying, but I'm also very interested in getting all these red springs, the red spring diagram in the right links in this place. And it's like, while I was doing that, I totally wasn't learning whatever they were telling me, because it's like those red springs have to be there because that's a memory thing I get. I'll be like short spring here, long spring here, middle spring there. I'll never get them out of order that way. But if you continue to talk at me while I'm doing that and ask me if I'm paying attention, I'm like, why are you fucking with me? They don't know that they're not, but
Yeah.
I'll interpret it that way. This is why I don't have any friends.
Max reluctantly lets Furiosa and the Wise back on. Furiosa gives him a file to cut his mask off, which is it's like, man, that'd take forever. But it's a fun little bit, you know.
A lot of pig iron in this universe, I guess. Going through like card and steel with a file. I guess give me 20 hours.
Furiosa gets the war rig running again. Nux catches up and hops on the back of the war rig. Max gets a bag and gathers all the weapons in the cabin, which is like a lot of things. So,
yeah, it's a crazy amount. It'd be like 100 pounds of weapons.
but in this universe, it's like it's probably easier to have a new gun than to have fresh bullets or a magazine. So it's
fastest reload is a new gun.
A convoy from Gastown is now chasing them down, which I think this is where we're introduced to the People Eater, which is just a really fat guy in a business suit with some nipple rings and a weird nose because he's probably like got some what's that like disease? What's that old time?
Mad cow disease.
Oh, I was gonna say leprosy.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
Well, and he's got his foot that's like an elephant foot, so he's got some like what is that? Is that
like gout?
Yeah, gout. Yeah. The Warwick starts rumbling, then Max goes out to check on.
He's essentially one of my favorite characters from Cormac McCarthy's The Road, a character who is also a great metaphor, the well-fed cannibal. Just someone who has totally embraced the horror of the universe and left all empathy behind. It's like, I'm going to get fat in a world with no food. Like, which is like, well, that's insane, but okay.
Well, it's also funny we never see him eating people, so
no, call him the People Eater, and he's a hugely fat man in a world of emaciated people, so he must be a bad dude.
Yeah. Max goes check on the rumbling. Furiosa reveals as he leaves the knife stick shift, so like she could have used it but didn't. Nux is crawling around underneath the war rig trying to stop it. Max finally gets it. Max just replugs something into this extra back sphere tank on the back of it, so he gets it. So it was like the brakes locked up or something. So he just plugs.
Yeah, you're basically, if you on semi trucks, if you unplug how air brakes work, if you take pressure off of them, they lock up. It's like a safety feature. It's kind of the opposite of how brakes work in the car, where you apply. We all know this, but yeah. So they plugged them back in, so basically unlocked the brakes.
Okay.
Which, by the way, that little thing would be glowing red on the brakes were seized that long.
Max finally gets the mask off, and then Nux makes a move, but gets held off by the wife. He like grabs Furiosa, but then the wives kind of hold him back. Then a convoy from Bullet Town is after them as well, so they basically got three of the biggest convoys in the area coming after them. So Um, which he like I'm guessing presumably they're coming to the aid of a Morton Joe, but like, or do you think they're just trying to steal the war rig? It's
No, they're coming to the aid of Joe because that's where the food comes from.
okay, so just
No commerce, no eat. The only thing you can do in Bullet Town without food is eat a bullet. The only thing you can do in, Gas Town is immolate yourself because without food, starvation is the worst death.
yeah.
And as you can tell by looking at me, I'm doing everything I can to fend it off.
They come up on a checkpoint where Furiosa's made a deal for passage, but she's also thinking it might just be a setup. So,
Yeah.
Which is, in this world, that's a good thing to keep in your back pocket. This is probably not going to be.
Yeah. What is this dirt bike faction called? I missed that in this.
I don't think I got one either. I don't know.
Okay, so it wasn't just me. Okay.
I mean, I don't know what most of the factions are. I just know there's Bullet
I
Town,
only know
Gas
the
Town.
Blazers because like this is very unique.
Yeah.
Like everything's rusty and spinning metal, and they only speak Russian. So
I mean, and then I guess like the mini mothers are their own gang too. So,
Mhm.
but they're also a motorcycle gang. But also like also I don't know if there's like if I didn't remember anything crossover from Furiosa. Like this could be like the remnants of what was his name? His gang in Furiosa.
what was the Mentor's gang called?
Or Dementus.
Dementus, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There's several because then there was like the guy who was like the what was it? He was like the black squid or something like that, or the Kraken. There was like the Kraken, like motorcycle gang as well in that movie. So there was kind of different motorcycle factions.
Yeah.
That he kind of brought together. Yeah, Dementus.
Dementus. I always called him the Dementor. I don't know why. He was the best. That was some of the best acting that guy's done. Talk about Furiosa someday, but yeah, that guy was really cool.
Yeah, because he's like awful in the movie and also like the funnest thing in the movie.
Well, he also looks like Noah.
Yeah,
Like he looks like a biblical character. Who's the actor that plays him?
Chris Hemsworth.
Okay, well, he doesn't look like Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. Well, he's got that big prosthetic nose on him too.
Oh, is that it? Okay, I thought they did like hair stuff to him too.
Maybe too. But yeah, he's definitely
he looks like a Bible character. But he's also just like insanely evil.
Yeah.
And then in the end, it's almost like, well, my family died and I just became evil. And she's like, everyone's family died. One of those things.
Furiosa greases her forehead with like grease on the steering wheel or whatever. I don't know. You think this has any practical application, or does it just look cool?
Why do football players do it? Does it reduce
sweat?
glare?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I thought it was to keep sweat from.
I thought it was to reduce the glare from the stadium lights.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
So that could be the sunlight. I don't know. It just looks cool.
Furiosa stops a war rig to trade gas for passage. The motorcycle gang is mad how many war parties are chasing her. She kind of just, goes past that. It's like, yeah, we'll just make a trade here. Then Furiosa yells fool because Max wouldn't actually tell her what his name was. After she shows him the sequence of how toward the to get the rig going again, which he just grunts at. It's like, yep, I completely remember that. The riders blow up and block the passage for the war parties. Then the riders chase the war rig as it takes off because like Max is able to get it going really quickly, and then Furiosa has to like run after us. She's being shot at a bunch. So Martin Joe gets a monster truck and rides it over top of the rocks. So he's now into play, which I think this is kind of reminiscent of Dementus's truck and that he gets eventually in Furiosa.
Yeah. It's called the Giga Horse.
Okay.
They call it. At least Morton Joe has it. I don't know.
Yeah.
The Dementus truck's similar.
Yeah, it's similar, but like I think the real truck. I think they're different, but I think they're most. I think they're supposed to call back to each other. But that thing they built for Furiosa is like a crazy real thing. Like I
Yeah.
think it only works in like 10 minutes bursts, but it's like it's a whole engineered contraption of it can do some weird crazy
It
things.
has tractor transmission components in it.
Okay.
And it was kind of reminiscent of really one of the only successful, really successful movie vehicles, which was the Christian Bale Dark Knight,
Oh yeah.
the tumbler. Like that thing really worked. Now the trick was it had such a low gear ratio; it could only go like 40 miles an hour,
Yeah.
and it had a huge engine in it. But it actually like Jay Leno drove it. And you know all the weird sounds it made when you drive it, like whoa, because
Yeah.
the tires were just constantly. It actually sounded that way. I mean, they enhanced it for the movie, of course, but it was like it had this very low gear ratio and this huge V8 engine in it. But like that one actually ran. And I think the Gigahorse was designed after like, how can we get this thing to run? You know, it's only going 35, 40 miles an hour because you just can't reduce the, the power. I mean, it's like those little Escapes I drive, they have 8 gears in them now. F-150s have 10, but they're only doing that for efficiency.
Yeah.
It's like how do you get 40 miles a gallon out of these, heavyweight vehicles? And but the Gigahorse, I think, had maybe 3 forward running gears, and you had to pull it in reverse by chain but yeah, it could only go 35, 40 miles an hour, but it worked. I think that one actually worked for a good stretch.
Okay.
It would just get too hot. The engine would overheat.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because when you're running that lowest speeds, the engine is like max RPM the whole time. So it's running at like 7,000 RPM. That's what you call marine duty V8s. That's what they put in like fast boats and stuff. That's why they have all the roller rockers and all the roller tips in them and everything, so they can tolerate high RPMs. That's the trick with these movie vehicles.
Oh, okay.
They usually put like marine duty engines in them because they're designed to run at high RPMs for long periods of time. Because you know how in your car you drive it and it goes to 6,000 RPM and then comes back to 3. It's like put it down in 2 and run it at 6,000 RPM for about an hour. See how hot that car gets. It's
hot. The pregnant lady is having contractions in the cab. The riders catch up to the war rig and are like setting, they're like jumping over it and like throwing spears and fire and crossbows bolts at them. Furiosa, like they catch the war rig on fire, and Furiosa uses the cow catcher. She like puts it down and throws a bunch of sand over the front of it and puts out the fire and the blower. So, well, actually, the blower like closes up as she does that. So
yeah,
it's meant to do that. It's part of the sequence. And Morton Joe pulls alongside. Splendid uses herself as a shield against bullets and flamethrowers. He's like, don't shoot her. It's got my kids and my wives. There's a big build up for Nux to get his glory to kill Furiosa. Like they like throw him across and give him. Joe gives him his stainless steel revolver. He's like
spray paints his face. That's where the saying. I think he says it again. You'll ride eternal, shiny in chrome, or something. Yeah, it comes up again. Yeah.
And so I throw him across the truck, and then he like trips and falls and loses the gun, and it's like very, very comical. And then Morton Joe
like shakes his head. Say marginal or something. No, but it's
like
something like that.
Yeah, something like not useless, but something along those lines. Then Splendid nearly gets taken out by like an outcropping of a rock, and then she avoids this, but then like a wound in her leg makes her misstep, and she falls and gets run over by a Morton Joe monster truck here. Which here like the wives like want to go back, but like Mad Max like assures them like she went under the wheels. So it's like she went under the wheels, which I'm not sure if she did, but she won't, because I'm like, well, surely she's dead, but she's like alive. Well, she's unconscious and still alive for about 20 minutes for the rest of the movie. So, but she's essentially dead. So, Yeah, because this is where Morton Joe is carrying Splendid, but like, is she alive or dying? Because you could hear her like making noises, and there's no other women in the scene, so it's like, uh, so we cut to the war rig breaks down. Cheeto, one of the wives, tries to run back to Morton Joe, but they keep her from doing so. Max asks about the green place because that's where the wives say they're going. Furiosa just says it's east. Furiosa does some repairs while the war rig is moving, so yeah, they get going again. They just do repairs on the fly. So, which you learn in Furiosa. That was like one of her first jobs. So I forget there's like a name for that person that like.
It's called the black wrench.
Okay.
You can work on a vehicle while it's moving. As soon as I heard that, it's like, man, I wish I could ever learn that skill. Couldn't even work on them while they were still effectively.
One of the wives goes to watch their backs. There's like a little, like, I don't know, like a cab of some car put on the back of the truck that you can sit there like it's a, like, what do they call those, like a crow's nest
seed or something. Oh no, yeah, like a watchtower.
Yeah. And then she sees Nux is there, and then she kind of like takes pity on him, and here's where he talks about like the Larry and Barry, his mates. Which she's like, "Who's that?" And you see the little smiley face on the cancerous tumors he has on his lymph nodes. So
yeah,
it's like, oh, that's the that's disconcerting. So
at least you can laugh about it.
Yeah. Oh, even like when you look at the wives, like almost all like, they're very like pretty model looking ladies, but then they have like just weird skin splotches and stuff on them too. So, but these are like the best women they can find in the Citadel. So,
yeah, wasn't that an earlier scene where a Martin Joe is just getting like patted down with talc?
Yeah.
So he has that kind of white uniform appearance, but he actually has like tumorous bulges.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So this is kind of the similar thing, but they're much younger than him.
Yeah. Or he's passing this on, and these are all his kids or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he says like, also where he says that Larry and Barry will eventually kill him if the night fevers don't. We have no idea what that means. Like, what are night fevers? Is that a result of Larry and Barry, or is that just something completely different? It's nighttime, or it's just blue in the desert. There's a lot of like cool things here where like everything's blue, but then like the wives have like a light in the back, and like they're lit completely differently from everything else. It's very cool looking, high contrast stuff going on here. The Warwick starts
like a comic book at some point.
The Warwick starts swerving as they get stuck in mud. They drop weight and like lay a trap for the war party coming after them. We cut to a Splendid is dying, and a Morton Joe wants the baby out. So then, they have the organic mechanic just cuts the baby out, and then he pulls it out, and the baby's dead. Like, the organic mechanic doesn't care. It's like, would have been a good one. Oh well. Which he kind of uses as like kind of like propaganda. It's like, well, we better get extra mad and catch after him because they just killed the perfect child or whatever, something like that. So. Because also, like, this is where Dementus is also mad. He's like, he was my baby brother or something like that. He was perfect or something like that. So, then here we get the tank tread cars going out looking for the war rig.
Legendarily, the worst vehicle to keep running on set.
But makes sense here in this situation because it would go through the mud a lot easier. But so
yeah.
This is where the guy has like two of every gun. Here he's like using a couple of those long barrel like Colt like handguns or pistols to just like shoot as kind of like to find things. Like it's
because it's making a sounding almost.
Yeah. Because I'm not sure. Like, is it just because it's dark out, or is there also kind of like a weird haze going on here? I can't really remember.
Kind of both, I think.
But yeah, they eventually see the light on it, and so Max is trying to shoot the light out, which they only have like 3 shots of this rifle left, and he gives the last shot to Furiosa, which he lets Furiosa use him as like like a tripod. Of course, like it's right next to his ear. But at least that she shoots the light out, and so they do like have like the ringing in the ear sound. So at least they account for that. It's like that seems terrible, like a terrible idea. So.
Yeah. Put the muzzle of this gun right next to my head.
But yeah, she shoots a light out, and it also just blinds this guy from bullet. I don't remember his name, but his eyes are completely gone because they pull out a flare, and it's like you're looking right at it. He's like, what? So now he's just getting two of every gun. So now he has two MP5s, and he's just firing it everywhere, and the bullets are landing near them. And then he has like two AK-47s, and he's just coming after them. And just like screaming loudly as they just charge forward. Um, um, so yeah, Nuck starts helping out Max and Furiosa because he's trying to drive the war rig while Furiosa and Max are trying to fight this tank tread car. They try pulling the truck out with a tree, but then the tree's like getting pulled out of the ground. But they eventually get the war rig going as they're being bombarded with bullets and explosives. Then Max goes out to meet the pursuers. So he's like, what if you don't come back? He's like, well, keep going. So like very matter of factly, it's like, why do you care about me? So
let's not bullshit each other here. If I don't come back, you're going to keep going.
But then eventually Max does come back, and you're just a large explosion off in the distance. We never see what happens. He just comes back with a steering. Oh yeah, they lost the steering wheel because it got hit with like a spear or something, and Max's hand got trapped for a moment, and then Furiosa just put a wrench on like the steering column to steer the war rigs. That's what they've been steering with it for the moment. So they get a wheel back, and then he just has a bunch of ammo from because he's looted this from the guys from Ammo Town. So
I do like how everyone's kind of weirded out. Like you don't see what Max does.
Yeah.
But you hear explosions and screaming and shooting. He comes back and everyone acts kind of weird, which is funny because like they've been murdering people all along. People have been being murdered. It's like, well, what did Max do that was specifically darker other than he went off and fought a tank by himself? That's kind of crazy. But then he comes back with supplies and a way to guide the vehicle more effectively than a pipe wrench. And everyone's sort of weirded out by him. It's like, have you been paying attention to everything else that's going on here? But it shows that like Max is a uniquely dangerous figure in this world.
Yeah,
he can like do things like that.
Well, also it comes out he's covered in blood too, which maybe that's what they're off put by. And they're like, "Oh, you're bleeding." And Furiosa's like, "That's not his blood." And then he goes washes the blood off in some milk, some mother's milk. Which I'm like, wait, is the whole tanker filled with that, or is this just the one container underneath the truck that's filled with mother's milk? I'm not sure. That'd be a lot of mother's milk in the whole container. Because what we learned in Furiosa, like that main tanker is like filled with like produce, or at least sometimes it's filled with produce. Here it's filled with water, but they also talk about having produce, but Aquacola. I don't know. Produce doesn't have a funny name, does it? It's just it's just produce.
Yeah, they don't sex that up. Call it pre-DOS or something. They'll like mix the words around.
They continue on riding on. They ride by some stilt walker guys, which these are the crow. They're the crows. Yeah. Which I only learned from like ancillary stories about Furiosa, which this is like.
These are the male children that are extirpated from her culture, right?
Yeah. And so like but when the land started getting poisoned, like they came in and took advantage and like basically like destroyed the green place. Well, it was dying anyways, but it didn't help when they get attacked by these crazy guys they left out in like
guys that went crazy in the desert. It will attack you in weird ways and walk funny. You won't be able to defend yourself against the funny walkers.
So yeah, here's where we learn that Furiosa used to live in the green place and was taken as a child. They follow something shiny in the distance, and then yeah, now it's morning again, or it's light out, and there's a naked lady in a tower yelling for help, or yelling "Help me!" And Max just points like, "That's bait." So, but Furiosa gets out and identifies herself. The naked lady gives a signal, and a bunch of riders pull up, and it's a gang of ladies from the Green Place, or what was the Green Place, and they're worried about Max and Nux because they're men. So this is where we kind of get into like, the backstory of the was it the Green Place, or what's it, the something of many mothers, I can't remember, the land of many mothers or something like that, but
Yeah, something like that.
there's like a whole history, you can look on Wikipedia, there's a whole history to it, that but it's never directly spoken in any of the movies. So um well, just these two movies. So they look over the wives. Furiosa learns the Green Place is gone and poisoned the land when she that they passed. So like where the Stiltwalker guys was, that's where the Green Place used to be. Which, if you watch Furiosa, the opening is like it's this big green place. There's a whole like forest with like apples and stuff like that, and peaches, and then there's like windmills and all this stuff, and it's a great society that's would seem to be thriving in the Mad Max world, but then it all gets destroyed. So.
Well, you find out that they like say that the Green Place was like the place they passed with the guys on stilts the night before. That's what it became.
Yeah.
So,
Um, there's not even any of the windmills left over.
oh,
um, so yeah, Furiosa breaks down and screams in the desert. That's awesome. Especially watch the movie Furiosa. It's like the patience and everything she went to just to get to a place and like was completely destroyed. Like that's completely devastating. So,
yeah, it was the only thing that kind of held her together.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's all gone now.
Because I forgot about this when I watched Furiosa, because I thought like, oh man, it's sad they never get back there. Like I thought it still existed. I didn't realize like, oh no, just the Green Place went away, because of poison. Because I thought that was like the whole thing, like why she lost her arm is like, oh, that's where she put the map, so now she can't get back there. But no, that was never a thing. It was like, no, they went back there. It's just gone. It doesn't exist anymore. So.
Everything else in this world, it sucks.
Get Act 3. It's night, and the ladies are watching the stars. They see a glint of a satellite, and they speak of like messages being broadcast in shows. Um, and then one of the many mothers shows off her stash of seeds from the Green Place, so that's kind of like a hope for future. And we see Max is making a map. Just like I think is like the only time we see somebody write something down. So it's fun. It's good.
That's one of the older characters. So.
Furiosa comes up to talk to him. She talks about riding across the salt. Max says he'll make his own way, so they give him one of the motorcycles, and then and it's like in the morning they go. Oh, he says, hope is a mistake. So,
as I tell every day when I wake.
It's the next day. They're riding out into the salt, and they even give like all supplies they could last with. And Max goes and stops them from riding out into the salt, and because he's like, that's just only death. You're never gonna get anywhere that way. So then he suggests going back to the Citadel, where the water is and crops are, which they think is crazy. But it's like, but then they realize that if they shut off the pass on their way back through, that they can trap the war parties back there, and then nobody's guarding any town anymore, like Gas Town, Bullet Town, is it Bullet? Yeah, Gas Town, yeah. Bullet Town, and the Citadel are all there for the taking. Let me see. We cut to the war party's resting, and they're excited, but when they spot the war rig, and the party gives chase. We see the interceptor giving chase, and Nux's friend is like blowing gas into the blower to make it go faster. And then Nux gets out. And he starts blowing gas into the blower of the war rig, so it's like this competition, which then Nux gets kind of like starts coughing a fit, and so then Max starts doing it. So, I don't know if any of this is viable. Like I know I've like I've had to put some sort of like to start the car some what is that? Yeah, we spray it in
Sure.
the air intake and then like it'll help spark it so it'll start.
Yes, ether. It's highly combustible.
Okay. Um um but yeah, the mothers take out the driver of the Interceptor and it kind of just pulls off to the side. And so yeah, the guy on the Interceptor is like was Nux's like buddy in the opening. Well, it's like contentious buddy, like I don't know, like a war party like partner or something like that. Because he's got like the scars on his cheek where his like his you can see his teeth and his like his skin was just stapled back together.
Oh yeah.
um. Then there's like two mothers that get taken out by the people eater where like they get knocked off the bike. They shoot some like one of them gets like 5 shots at Morton Joe, but it's like bulletproof gas, so it doesn't go through. And then the people eater like forces the truck thing to hit the lady, and he seems to have almost an orgasmic reaction to it. So, so now that then they have like these trucks where they shoot chains or spears and it sticks to the war rig, which now like it starts spilling water out. But then they like drop an anchor to try to slow down the war rig, which this all looks very cool. So again, yeah, one of the best action movies ever made. So
Yeah, if not the best. Yeah.
then they bring in like the swinging guys. Well, there's just these trucks with these long poles and just guys swinging back and forth and doing weird acrobatics, dropping bombs, shooting things. It's very like I don't know if it's just like purely George Miller's imagination or if it's a cooperation, but it's a weird, interesting cinematic thing that may give someone an advantage, but who knows? I've never seen this before.
Like Cirque du Soleil is like this would be cool.
Yeah, they start dropping bombs on the war rig. The old mother riding shotgun gets like her bell rung, or she's like stabbed in the ears or throat or something. I don't remember.
Something happened to her. I think she got stabbed.
Yeah, I can't remember because it seemed like she got stabbed in the ear because they start doing like the ringing ear sound with her, and then like she doesn't die immediately, but she knows she's like dying. But then I think they reveal like a throat wound later on. But But yeah, now she's out of it. She like grabs her seeds and holds on to them. Max gets shot through the hand, and then it like embeds in his head. He's like his hand is pinned to his head, and he's pretty knocked silly for a moment here. And he gets back up and he fights somebody, but he like gets knocked off the rig, and Furiosa grabs him by the foot, and then her rigging for her arm starts coming loose because she's holding on with her mechanical arm, and then she gets
seems to be like twisted off.
Yeah, and then she gets I think she gets stabbed in the side, and then it starts coming loose because the leather strap was cut. So it doesn't look good for Max here, but then the Interceptor is back, and so like the guy with the stapled together cheeks, he's driving it, and they give this big like push in moment where he's like pointing at them, and then he's like almost immediately killed and squished between the two trucks. It's like hilarious. It's like, yeah, we want to see the Interceptor in action, and then, like George Miller is like, no. So because you're kind of hoping like, oh, maybe Max will get dropped on the Interceptor, get it back, and like win the day. But it's like that's not how Mad Max movies work. So, I don't know, Nathan. What do you think? Were you angry the Interceptor was destroyed once again?
No, because I always know how it plays out.
Okay.
He always ends up driving something out. He was driving a semi in the end of the Road Warrior too.
Yeah. So, let's see here. Max hijacks People Eater's vehicle. He like uses a human shield, and as a Morton Joe like is trying to shoot at him, he just kills People Eater. So that guy's gone. Max hops back on the war rig. yeah, like People Eater's car is also like a war rig, right? Because it's got a big trailer behind it. Or is everything with a trailer behind it a war rig? Or
I'm not sure. I think there's only one war rig.
okay, all right. Max hops back on the war rig, and as the Gastown war rig blows up, Max ends up on one of the swinging poles, and then Nux drives as Furiosa goes to stop Morton Joe because Morton Joe like pulled in front of them, and he's trying to stop them or slow them down. Max fights on the speaker truck with like the flamethrower guitar guy. Uh, he gets back. Yeah, I guess it's not really that long of a fight. He kind of just knocks out. He pulls the bandages off the guitar playing guy, and that's where it's kind of revealed he doesn't really have eyes. Or at least I don't think he does.
No,
it's got just a weird diseased mouth or whatever.
yeah.
He keeps playing to Defiance, but eventually he gets. I forget how the guitar player gets killed, or if he just gets thrown off or something like that. I can't remember. We do see like when it wrecks, we see like because like the flamethrower guitar is like also attached to like a bungee rig. Because also this guy's kind of like moving around on these bungee cords while playing guitar. So
Yeah.
they had like the weird like the guitar like flies towards the camera and gets sucked back like when it crashes eventually. Um, Max gets back on the war rig and he fights Rictus. That like him and the wives like take out his backpack, which stops him for a moment. Which I don't know what this backpack is doing. Like I don't know if it's doing assisting something or he's got some weird disease because he seems like the most fit of everybody among the
I
Immortan
think he
Joker.
has like an oxygen tank for
Okay.
some reason. Yeah.
Well, he's also got like that weird like mask on his face, but I don't think anything's going to his nose. I don't know, maybe it's just going directly into his lungs through his back or something like
Yeah.
that.
Come up with some weird solutions in this world.
um, Furiosa wraps Immortan Joe's face up in a spear, and then just throws it in the wheels, and it rips his face off. So it's like, so Immortan Joe's finally done with, no longer immortal. Um, he's like screaming for a moment as for his face gets ripped off. So that's fun. That's kind of fun. And then one of the ladies like spits in his face.
Yeah.
Um, the crew abandon the war rig for Morton Joe's vehicle. Rictus wakes up and rips the engine out of the war rig, and then because like Nux was supposed to like crash this car anyways, but here he like uses it as a moment to let them go on, and so he crashes the war rig with Rictus on top of it, and he's able to block off the pass, and like all the like a bunch of the like the war party crashes behind him, so now they're wrecked or the the war party is stuck behind the rocks, and presumably, presumably Nux is dead. You know, not really confirmed, but it seemed like Rictus got like rolled up and tore apart pretty good. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But you never know. You know, a guy like that always survives in these movies. So.
It seems like the Joe family has been pretty comprehensively wiped out.
Yeah.
Except for his like the guy the with the telescope back home. He's left.
Then we cut to Furiosa's dying from a wound. She got stabbed in the side. And then Max like stabs her in the other side to like relieve her lung or something like that. And then he hooks himself up as a blood bag again to Furiosa. And here he tells her name is Max, and she's basically passed out. We cut to Max and the crew return to the Citadel with Immortan Joe's body on the hood of the car. The crowd cheers death, and then the war boys are kind of clueless of what to do or feel. And then Furiosa's revealed, you know, the Imperator has returned, and so the crowd chants and to let them on the elevator, and so they do. We see the milking mothers release the water to the crowd below. So like, you know, there's Immortan Joe's gone. There's kind of defiance being set up here. And then we see Furiosa looks back to see Max leaving through the crowd because he doesn't want attention or to be seen as a hero. He just wants to be by himself in the wasteland. So
Max that's what I identify the most with that character. Leave me to my misery, please.
We cut to black. There's titles. It says, "Where must we go? We who wander the wasteland in search of our better selves." Quote from the first History Man. So.
which I
Uh,
think is a character in Furiosa.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Is that like Rictus's guy that like keeps all the knowledge?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. But there's also a guy like that in Beyond Thunderdome, right?
Believe so.
I'm
I
not
think.
sure if I'm not sure if he's called a history man, but he is like the narrator or whatever. So,
Yeah, I think he's the guy who like he's like an arbiter of contracts.
yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean.
But yeah, so that's Mad Max Fury Road. Maybe one of the best movies ever made. So.
Possibly, yeah. I mean,
I
I
don't
know
know.
a lot of
Uh,
weird side alleys in this podcast, but yeah, we really like this movie.
should we play the game once again as to what actually won the Oscar and did this movie deserve to win it? So,
Yeah, I mean, probably because it was so impactful on me and I personally. But I also thought like Spotlight was a pretty good movie, a
okay.
pretty poignant, thing that actually happened.
Oh, that's what I was gonna. Oh, I'm ruining it. So I thought I remembered something that like, because last week we talked about Birdman. I thought like the guy who directed that won the Oscar 2 years in a row, and so I thought The Revenant was probably the one that won the Oscars. But it turns out I was correct, but I looked at it too soon, so I am. So who knows? Because what did win Best Picture? Oh, Spotlight did. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, The Revenant got Best Director, so yeah, that guy got Best Director 2 years in a row.
Yeah. Spotlight, unfortunately, is an awesome movie. So
Okay.
I can't say like, oh, the movie that beat this sucked and it was boring. It's like, no, it wasn't. It wasn't as cool as this.
Okay. Okay. Well, at least Mad Max Fury Road was nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
So you got that at least.
It won a bunch of like costume, I think cinematography. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, The Martian came out the same year. That's a great movie. So
Yeah.
that'd probably be my second favorite movie that year.
Oh yeah. Very good movie. Watch it. I mean, if you're a fan of Mad Max, which I obviously am from some of the posters and stuff in my room and models and things downstairs.
Mad Max Fury Road got Best Sound Editing and Best Sound Mixing and Best Production Design. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. Did it get cinematography?
Makeup and hairstyle, costume. The Revenant got Best Cinematography.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, that actually makes sense. That's a awesome movie too. So.
Best Film Editing, Mad Max Fury Road.
Yep.
Weirdly, well, I guess not weirdly, Ex Machina got Best Visual Effects, which was like kind of a low budget sci-fi movie.
Yeah, very effective when they were used, though.
Yeah. But yeah, this is like, I feel like, especially after Furiosa, maybe a movie of this scale, artistic and magnitude, and kind of R rating will never be made again.
No, it was a one and done.
I mean, maybe they might make a television series in aggregate that might come close to this, but as a whole production, maybe never happen again.
No, I think this was it. This was almost when I saw it, I couldn't believe how good it was. It's like, oh, this is great all the way through.
And how it kept building up. It's like, yeah, it's a car chase. Like, how can you keep like making that fresh? It's like, man, watch the movie.
Yeah, there is a way to do it. Beautifully constructed world, very visually appealing. It had kind of an unobtrusive soundtrack. I was like, it was there,
yeah.
but it wasn't like overwhelming.
Yeah, it was like a beat that kept going throughout. So, yeah, just exactly 2 hours or 2 hours and 1 minute, I think technically, but perfect length for a movie. Yeah, it can both feel long and short at the same time because it's like almost one long scene.
Yeah, it's one long scene with a few respites.
Yeah.
But even those respites are so depressing. It's like, I wish these people were just shooting each other from cars. It's miserable.
Yeah, well, that's probably one of the things that this does best is like it's a terrible world. It's a terrible, horrible world, but like they have fun.
Yeah.
Which I think that's maybe the major problem with Furiosa is like there's never fun to be had in
No,
that
Furious is just dark.
movie.
Each scene is dark. It's man, it can't get any darker than this. It's like, hold on, wait a minute, another one coming.
And that's why like the bad guy in the movie is like the funnest part of it because he's like the only person having fun in that movie because
Yeah,
everybody else is having a terrible
dour. You're like, oh.
time.
Well, you're acting like everyone you know is getting killed. It's like, yeah, it's because that's what's happening. Oh, gotta be a look, be like the Dementis, like revel in the horror.
Steer into the skid.
Yeah.
Um, where am I? Oh, there it is. Well, you can find us on Letterboxd, username VHE. Nathan, 1 out of 5 stars. What are we giving Mad Max Fury Road?
Oh, clearly 5.
All right. Oh, I did do this out of order. Okay.
Send our probe.
Yeah, we're seeing our probe mistakes, Kenny, the supercut of the imperfect collection that is the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what one scene from Mad Max Fury Road are we putting into space?
Oh, this movie has a built-in cheat. It's the sandstorm effect.
Okay.
That establishes everything you need to know about the movie, and it's cool as hell, too. So that's what you're getting.
Okay.
And that's what you need.
You can find this podcast at verhoeveneffect.com. There we have listeners support. You can listen on a monthly stipend, 99 cents, 49 or 9.99. Cancel any time. You can rate our podcast whatever you want. You can rate us wherever you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. So give us the highest rating. Let's confuse the algorithm and give everyone a chance.
Don't let our robot overlords enslave us quite as quickly as they inevitably will.
Don't let Joe Rogan and NPR tell you what you need to do.
Right. Fuck those guys. Be your own man. Give us money.
You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us at Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us here at YouTube at American Greed Factory. Watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.